I had the best year last year out of any pro on NA Central.
We came 3rd and 5th in Majors 2 and 3, double qualifying for Globals.
My 2023 was good in the beginning because I was placing decently.
I qualified for my first LAN, which was pretty nice and fun, but I also didn't do as good as I thought I would.
I think towards the second half of it, I played really good.
The most disappointing part was the final major, where I got 3rd place day 1 and then underperformed really bad day 2, and we were like a second away from getting that placement point we needed to qualify to the global championship. That's the point I look back on the most, and I think it inspired me for this year for sure.
I mean, I feel like at Global Championships, it was kind of a letdown. I really want to prove myself this time around, finish at least top 5.
Number one thing I do want to do this year is definitely qualify for every single grand finals.
I'm gonna win FNCS, go to Globals, and get a top 10 this time.
For someone like me to qualify to the global championship, I need to make sure I focus up.
I definitely should care and prepare more than I did for the last Globals. I got a reality check after getting dead last.
I feel like I have to win a LAN. Like, that's my main goal. I've accomplished kind of everything else, like online.
Qualifying in the first major is going to be pretty hard, but I definitely think I can qualify within the first 2 majors.
It's, everybody competing for that number 1 spot to guarantee their qualification.
I just let it happen when it happens, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to put pressure on my shoulders saying, I need to win this one, I need to win this one.
It definitely feels more pressure since there's no last chance qualifier this time.
I'm going to put all my effort into the game, and I'm going to just make sure that when September comes around, I'm ready for FNCS Globals.
If I just grind the season and I actually take into consideration that I can qualify through majors, it should be easy, it should be fun.
Even if we do, let's say, win the first FNCS and we qualify, I'm still going to try to win the next 2.
Whatever happens at Grand is where you find the best duo.
I'm gonna try to make myself known as one of the best IGLs in North America.
I mean, I'm going to go for the back-to-back wins, set some new records.
I have to be at the Global Championship. It's not a how badly do I want to, I have to be there.
The Flowberry is one of the best mobility items in Chapter 5 Season 1, and today I'll show you how to utilize it in FNCS. Starting with number 1, the Flowberry Crash Pad. Perfect for rotating long distances in mid-game, the combination of the Flowberry's low gravity effect and a crash pad is a really effective trick to make your way into the zone. We've seen many different teams show us some, let's say, interesting ways to hop on the pad. However, the best way to avoid having egg or Flowberry on your face is to throw the crash pad down in the corner of an edited cone, then reset the cone to use it as a ramp to get on the crash pad. That way, you never have to deal with the awkward run back after mistiming the jump. Have you ever felt like the launch pads around the map just don't seem to take you far enough? Try combining the Flowberry effect with the pad and look at the height you get now. Mr. Savage did this in last weekend's Open Qualifier, and the reason why he loves it is that it gives him so much more height, distance, and visibility across more of the map. Having the ability to cover more distance in early game here allows them to be way more flexible with their positioning and can be applied to any lobby in Fortnite. Mongrel also had a go at it, but it took him a couple of tries. But we'll let him off, he just got back into competitive. The Grapple Blade is an excellent mobility item, and using it on its own is hugely popular amongst competitive and casual players alike. But as you can probably guess by now, it can be buffed by combining it with a Flowberry or Flowberry Fizz. Last weekend, we saw one of the best teams in Europe Cammy and Seti, using this combination so well that it actually resulted in them taking high ground in this endgame. The increased height and momentum that they get from the low gravity effect of the Flowberry means that once they grapple onto the front side of this 9th zone, they simply float up and claim height for themselves, which actually makes them win this game. Not bad for a small jar of fizz. Well, it's not actually that small. It's like half the size of the character.
I'm too exhausted, I needed the energy, needed to pick me up. I'm in your movie, but this is my cinema. I got a power, I'm built to devour. Anyone coming against me, a tower. I don't care when the pressure. Some of y'all leaving here in the stretcher. Took my time to go and get better. I was reading in the red letters. Ay. Energy, energy, energy. Honey, that energy, energy. Energy, energy, energy. Honey, that. Been here, done that. Wanna know what we came for? Been here, done that. Wanna know what we came for? Energy, energy, energy. I need that energy, energy. Energy, energy, energy. I need that energy, energy.
What's going on, Fortnite fam? It's great to see all of you. Welcome to the FNCS. This is day number 2. And once again, we are finding ourselves in semifinals and the upper bracket. But there's a few little things that are a little bit different, like 30 new duos who are stepping up to play. What and how will this all go? Well, that's what we are here to find out. It's not just me who will be calling all the action. We also got Kelly, of course, Vivid. Two of your favorites who will be kind of breaking things down because there's a few things to be broken down. Friends, welcome to day number 2. How you guys feeling?
Feeling good. I mean, the hype yesterday, it really got brought right. All of those games, the pop-offs were absolutely crazy. Saw some changes throughout the day as well. And like Zeke mentioned, the biggest change of the weekend going to be that switch out. 30 new teams coming in, Kelly, for their chance to qualify grand finals. I cannot wait to see how this goes.
Yeah, all the prep and VOD reviewing that the duos did yesterday kind of gets thrown out the window, and they have to research everything once again because a lot of teams have kind of picked up some new POIs, especially the ones from our winning teams from yesterday. Personally, though, I love that we got to see kind of a meta shift where we always see high ground teams win. However, as far as yesterday was going, it was all low ground. But I think we might see something a little different today.
I'm kind of hoping so because it's a little uncharacteristic. It feels a little different. I don't know how I feel like. I don't like change. Okay, let's go back to high ground being cool. Just kidding. We'll see how things go. Let's start pretty simple here. What happened yesterday? So in case you missed out, first, we're looking for the Victory Royale. We're going to have 5 games to play, and if you and your duo can get a Victory Royale, you're going straight to Grand Finals. No questions asked. You don't have to play anymore. You're good to go. Here is the list of the players that got Victory Royales yesterday. Wanted to kind of highlight 2 duos in particular, starting with Muzz and Paper. Basically, we have to ask the question, okay, what led to them getting that Victory Royale, right? What led to their success? So Vivid, break it down.
Yeah, I mean, Muzz and Paper actually had an extremely cool strategy that they were able to execute in game number 5. And honestly, most of it just revolved around the fact that they left their POI fencing fields within like 3 minutes of landing there. Somehow they managed to go ahead and pick up enough loot for pretty much the rest of the game outside of their mats. But the important thing to note here is that Muzz himself, he has a grapple blade, which is of course very, very good. We've seen that utilized throughout the weekend and throughout just the FNCS in general. Such a good mobility item, but in the early game, especially when you and your duo, like Paper right here, he has a grapple blade as well. Get one, you both can just traverse the map very, very easy. And that's the strategy for Muzz and Paper in game number 5. They left their POI extremely fast, didn't even take the time to go ahead and farm up many materials, and pushed for the forecast tower and found themselves an extremely important fight in doing so.
Yeah, mobility is obviously a very important part of the game. It allows you to traverse the zones a lot easier and also able to kind of control where the rest of the lobby is within those zones. But you know what else helps a little bit better with that, Vivid, is of course the forecast towers. These objectives in the game definitely seem to be a prioritization for all the teams across all regions, and there's a good reason. The forecast tower is absolutely incredible in what it provides these duos.
Yeah, and Muzz and Paper, they're so good at reading the field, right? Picking up on little things that happen around them. As you can see right here, Muzz and Paper, they're approaching the forecast tower and they see a base up there and then, of course, right there next to the forecast tower. In their minds are like, oh, okay, so somebody's already up there. They, of course, hit that snipe shot earlier on, but then this is where it comes into very, very important. They see Cam coming down off of the hill where the forecast tower was because his duo, of course, just got sniped. So Muzz is like, oh, this is the team that was up there next to the forecast tower. If we win this fight, we get the forecast, and that is exactly what happened. Paper and Muzz secured forecast in game number 5. But Kelly, remember, let's go back a little bit. They left fencing fields so quickly that they did not take the time to go ahead and farm up their materials. So another objective that they, of course, wanted to go ahead and secure was...
Oh, it's going to be that cash, of course. That cash giving them the med kits that they so deservedly needed at the very end there. Although they were prepared for a heal off, it's actually one of the only games that didn't come down to a heal off. In fact, it came down to them going up against one of the top teams, Peterbot and Pollo. However, that did go to the way of Muzz. So congratulations to Muzz and Paper for making their way into the grand finals. I can't wait to see how they perform next week.
For sure. And another duo I can't wait to see perform, Cooper and Miro, right? Bid was like, hey, this is a duo I could see winning the first game, and sure enough, just like he foresaw in the script that he wrote himself for the entire show in the world, that's real, don't quote me on that, they won game number 1. But what happened?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, just going ahead and looking at their inventory here, the crash pads for Cooper, and then of course we go ahead and look at what Miro himself is carrying. He's going to be carrying those flow berries. These two items work very, very well together because of course if you use a flow berry and then jump on top of a crash pad, the distance that you can travel is oh so important. But Cooper and Miro, straight out of their POI, they go straight for this giant hill, and as a result of that, they have so much control over the rotates of any of the teams that are kind of rotating around them, and it allows them to get so much storm surge.
Yeah, and if you guys missed it in chat, Cooper actually joined us for a quick interview at the end of the show yesterday, and he really gave some incredible insight, mostly being on the crash pads and why they prioritize that over the grapple blades. Of course, as you can see here in the gameplay, they do have their grapple blades once they do run out of the crash pads, but we all know this season it's a little bit low mobility compared to previous chapters that we've seen in Fortnite. So any kind of mobility that you can get, these duos definitely seem to be going for.
Okay, I like that. Is there anything else that maybe led to their success, or, you know, you kind of talk about this insight. Is there anything else you guys felt like lent itself to them coming out and winning that game 1?
Well, I mean, I think Cooper kind of alluded to it a little bit in the interview. You know, this season, they've been kind of trying to find their stride, kind of trying to figure out what works best for them. And one of the biggest surprises to me was that just recently, Cooper was like, you know what? Let's make an adjustment coming into this weekend. Let's not actually go for the grapple blades. Let's go ahead and go for those crash pads. And I think they were able to find a lot more consistency, right, in those rotates with those crash pads, just because of the distance that they can cover. And sometimes those grapple blades are honestly a little bit dangerous to use, Kelly. I think their strategy just worked out very, very well, and other teams need to kind of follow suit, find out what works for them.
Like to see it. So, okay, you talk about them. let's talk about today. Right now, we've had a day. We've had some duos kind of look. They've had an opportunity to kind of say, okay, well, how did they get themselves the Victory Royale? How can some of these duos look to replicate some of that, right? We kind of mentioned already 30 new duos. Now, keep in mind, though, this does mean that there's 20 that played yesterday. They've kind of got their own strategy. But now with over half the lobby coming in and you have no idea what they're going to be doing. And keep in mind, they also had 10 matches instead of 5, right? So there's a lot of differences happening here.
Yeah, 100%, right? These teams, these new teams coming up from the lower bracket, let's not forget, they have yet to play in a set lobby throughout this FNCS so far. So that straight up is going to be new to them. And then, of course, Kelly, the fact that the Victory Royale is really the thing that matters here today.
Yeah, I mean, definitely these duos that are also going to be going for the Victory Royale are going to have to kind of look back to what teams did yesterday to learn from that. And something I think that they hopefully learn from is, although we all know that high ground wins games, that doesn't necessarily seem to be the case, at least for the strategy that we're seeing here. A lot of fights were going on for the high ground. There was times we saw 3 or 4 different teams contesting each other. And when that happens, when this engagement goes on for prolonged periods of time in the high ground, you tend to use up those very vital med kits and heals. And unfortunately, that means that the heal off meta, which is obviously very prominent in the competition this weekend, tends to not go in your favor.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And almost every single time throughout these highlights, we actually check in with the duo. If you take a look at their inventory, they're like never carrying any heals. This investment into trying to fight for high ground, straight up, it just worked for literally nobody yesterday. And, you know, Kelly mentioned it earlier, all of the Victory Royales that we saw happen yesterday, they were from the low ground. So all these teams coming in today, some of the teams returning from yesterday, I would be absolutely surprised to see if any of those teams invested a lot of time and a lot of their resources into just a straight up high ground take throughout the games today.
I do quickly want to note, though, that in Europe, it was kind of the opposite, where almost every single team was winning from the high ground today, which is a little confusing. And I'm kind of interested to see maybe if some duos learn from EU specifically, or if we're going to see more of a medkit heal off strategy.
Yeah, I mean, if you missed out on EU, go check the last game of the day. Pink had one of the craziest clutches I think I've seen to date. It was amazing. Make sure you go check that out. But as we kind of turn attention today, you kind of keep talking about, you know, low ground and high ground. You know, that's something Cooper actually talked about in the interview, is like, wow, you know, for the low ground just feels more flexible. And Kelly, something you said that actually kind of like had like a little light bulb come into my head was like, if there's more teams fighting on the low ground, that means you have more access to their stuff, right? These impact eliminations go way up in value if everyone's on the low ground fighting for the same thing. I take them out, I get their stuff.
And obviously, the low ground can tend to be very chaotic because there is just so many people running around you, people hiding around corners and everything. But of course, these are 50 of the best duos that North America has to offer, so they're all prepared for that. The real top play that comes into it is how they're able to control the low ground. Do they have the forecast tower so that they know where zone's going to be pulling? Do they have the awareness of where everyone else is in the lobby? And although it did come down to a heal off 3 out of the 5 games yesterday, every single game did one from the low ground. And I don't know if it's ironic or what the word would appropriately be, but the 2 games that weren't won from medkits were both from Peterbot and Poyo trying to take down the team that's going for the heal off, and unfortunately actually getting countered for that. So again, I wonder if Peterbot and Poyo are going to kind of do what Re and Ritual did in week 1, where they kind of hold a bunch of medkits and stay on high ground and then just hope that no one contests them.
Yeah, there's so many different ways we could play this, right? And I'm excited to get into it. Really quickly, I wanted to highlight this lobby list. So again, 30 duos showing up now in the upper bracket. They have to play completely different. So we want to just call out a couple names for you really quick. Flix and Epic Will, we saw them perform yesterday, and they had a very strong showing. They did not get themselves the Victory Royale, so I feel like they're very close to pulling that off, right? We see the mechanical play, we see the decision making is there. There's still just a little bit of chaos they have to kind of work through to like get that VR.
I mean, Epic, really, very experienced when it comes to these types of lobbies. And then Clicks, of course, he was basically just like made for the stage. So wouldn't be surprised if they were going ahead and get a victory royale today. But honestly, the only thing that I saw missing from their play style yesterday was the lack of Clicks hitting some snipe shots. Usually they're pretty reliant on getting a refresh off of one of his incredible snipes. And I'm just hoping to see him hit some of those today.
Yeah, their best performance yesterday was 5th place, which although is very good, it's obviously not in contention of that victory royale. And their worst performance was 30th place, which shows me that they're not having an issue on their drop spot. They're landing Lavish Lair uncontested, and they seem to be rotating through the mid game very easily. But it's when that end game fights and all the chaos happens. I'm wondering if it's a disconnect from communication between both the duos, or if they're just kind of getting unlucky in these fights.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how things go for them today, because there is something, right? There's just like one last thing they just have to shore up, and then I could totally see them getting that victory out and securing the spot to grand finals. Here's the second list of 25 players we'll be seeing. And of course, if you thought we were not going to highlight Peterbot and Pollo, I don't know if you were watching yesterday. They hit second place twice.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, every time it was like, this is it, right? Nope, just kidding. Go a couple games later. Oh, second place. Here we go again. Nope. So this day, I'm hoping they can get that victory royale. They've come so close so many times, and we kind of talked about it yesterday, Vivid. This is like the aggressive team.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's any other duo we could classify as more aggressive than them.
No, let's go ahead and just give them that title straight up. And, you know, honestly, listen, Kelly said it the best. This was the duo in every single one of the games where it didn't go to a heal up. Peterbot and Pollo were the ones trying to push the meta, defy the meta, take the fight to the other team, and that's what just makes them so good. And then Kelly, their ability to also learn from just like 4 games, right? In that 5th game, it seemed like they had taken everything that they learned from the prior games and applied it to that game, which is why I'm going to be 100% keeping my eye on them today.
I mean, yeah, Zeke, you already said it. They got second place twice, and then in 2 of their other games, they got top 10. They were able to control the high ground throughout almost every single game that we saw. They were really smart in when to take the high ground and then able to control it to the very final moments. But their issue, which is very surprising, was their final fights. It just seemed like they kind of expected the other duo to be preoccupied with heals, and then they could have just easily eliminated them, and then they weren't expecting them to actually be attacked back. So hopefully that changes here today.
Yeah, there's a lot at stake. Again, we're looking to play 5 matches. If you and your duo can get a victory royale, you're going to grands, you're secure, you're good. Everyone else, we're trying to stay in the top 20 at the end of the day to stay in the upper bracket for tomorrow. But it's not just us. We also have casters standing by. We've got Monster D-Face and the best Taco to prep us for game 1.
Thanks so much, Zeke, Vivid, and Kelly. Always appreciate that little bit of insight we get before the day gets rolling here. But Monster, we've got another 5 games here in the upper bracket to work through, but things are shifting a little bit because now we have some of those lower bracket teams from yesterday that managed to qualify for the upper bracket today. So what are some of your expectations with that?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the pressure's going to be on for all of these new teams starting to step in. If you had a little bit of a tougher day, hopefully you get to reevaluate what possibly went wrong, what went right. We'll find out, though. The battle bus is ready. Let's get here for game number 1.
And this is what it's really all about, because if you can punch your ticket to that grand finals today with 1 out of 5, that's all you need, just 1 victory royale. And if you don't get it, Monster, well, either the upper bracket or the lower bracket awaits, but a reduction in games as a possibility, given that you only get 3 chances for tomorrow, but tomorrow is not today. And right now, I think one of the primary focuses is the fact that we do have some new off-spawn engagements because of some of these teams being brought up from the lower bracket to uppers, and Creep, Hades, they've already got their eyes set onto Blizzard and Victor. A lot of pressure being applied with some of these Shieldbreaker EMPs as well from Creep.
That's right. This is not like a 2-day tournament. No, these are 2 separate tournaments on, across different days, essentially. This is going to be a completely new environment. There's going to be plenty of new opportunities now to fight these engagements that they haven't seen before for Creep and Hades right now. I mean, things are looking pretty good, but both sides have, like you can see here, accepted their punishment, and they're going to have to reset, bounce back, and see who can actually recover the fastest. But ultimately, we're going to see this unfold all across the map. We're going to see this unfold realistically all across tons of teams here today.
What I'm really curious about, though, is Creep. No shields, no heals. Hades definitely looking worse for wear. And things are just getting started here, so it's really going to come down to Creep, whether or not he can manage to connect. Doesn't have that much ammunition, though, to continue extending this engagement. It does seem as though Hades was able to find some shields, though, for the time being. That is still going to be enough incentive, though, for Creep to just pull back a little bit further, create a little bit more space here. And space is one thing, too, that Webster is definitely trying to control here with Hydra on the opposite end of the map, more towards that north side.
Yeah, and they've already picked up that singular elimination here, so Havoc is down and out. It's up to his teammate here to try to pull this one out by himself, and this is not an easy task to do by any means, but for Webster and Hydra, they seem to be content with the fact that they already have an elimination. Why throw the rest of this game? All that matters, again, is those victory royales. So yeah, sure, you can play consistent. Sure, you can, you know, try to earn points in the interim, but winning a game is the highest priority. And when you have a teammate alongside yourself still in the early game, you might as well play towards that win condition first as your highest priority. For Pikes and Stacky over here at the Classy Courts, I mean, there's fights happening everywhere. You can see that right now there's about to be 3 teams potentially engaging here. There's a team fighting to the southwest, and that's not including all the teams that have already been scratched out of this lobby with some quick and fierce early game fights ending pretty fast, and the toll continues to count here as the elimination feed lights up, Taco. So yeah, there's a lot of action happening right now.
And Buga's just going to keep things going. Just immediately challenging. Stacky finds the instantaneous knock, will go for the finish as well. So 1 elimination credited towards Buga and Aviv, and they just continue running down the likes of Pike as he's not going to be able to escape this time. Buga, Aviv, just too much pressure. Now, Noxy seemingly going for a third-party opportunity, but Buga, Aviv, it cost them next to nothing to find those quick 2 eliminations. So they could definitely look for this challenge up against Crisp if they so choose.
Yeah, it's one of those things like, why farm metal, why farm brick when you could just go find yourself a set of eliminations and take everything that, you know, generates from those downed bodies, essentially. But they may have asked for more than they can handle here. There's a lot going on. Aviv's going to get punished here. Buga's going to have to come to his assistance here shortly, but Crisp and Noxy all of a sudden, you know, constricting all of the air around this base here as another team starts to come in as well. So just danger on the horizon here as Buga and Aviv had no time to truly celebrate their set of eliminations. Slumcho and Plur come in, and all of a sudden now everyone's like, yeah, let's get out of here. This is not the fight that I want to take. So for Slum and Plur, I mean, they're just getting started right there. They don't know who's below. They just want Surge.
And that's the most important part, because if you think about how yesterday went, we saw teams every single lobby 7th, 8th zone struggling with that Storm Surge damage threshold. And that's something that Slumcho and Plur continually trying to avoid that in game number 1. Make some adjustments to these Surge tech strategies, but Buga, Aviv, they're certainly quite experienced when it comes to the Surge tech situation. They know with those 2 elims they've already acquired, looted out a house as much as they wanted at Classy Courts, now trying to find a separate area of elevation to look to challenge. But it's largely just about Buga trying to refarm mats at this point. But of course, action everywhere, Monster.
And take a look at this. Edgy gets, looks like the drop here on Baka, as Baka was just trying to find the weapon. Okay, so that's actually his first shotgun he puts up. See, is it even going to be enough for him to turn things around? No, he's going to get tagged first, and it is very, very likely that this is going to be the end for Baka. So Baka and Pars had this same exact situation happen yesterday, don't forget, but look at this. He actually does end up getting the knock there first onto Edgy, so that's a crazy turn of events. Yesterday, Baka and Pars were first to fall in game 1. They're one of the earliest duos to get taken out. I'm happy they get to start off a little bit faster here today, and although they did, you know, turn out and turn some pretty wonderful end games, they did not get that victory out, right? That's what is up for grabs here today. It's, can you pull the victory out here today, get it out the way, and go straight to grand finals?
And it is tough for Baka and Pars as well, because they've just been so continuously contested for their drop because of the possibility of that forecast tower that spawns so close toward like the land near that reclaimed villa on that southwest side of the map. But this is actually one of our newer teams to the upper bracket, Snacky and Possessed, finishing in 8th place, I believe, from the lower bracket yesterday, now ready to continue their momentum here in the upper bracket today. Snacky and Possessed definitely seeming as though they're just trying to prioritize their surge damage for the time being, and for good reason. If you have any bit of elevation that you can utilize, all these hills, you need to make sure you're taking control of them, just like Snacky and Possessed are doing. They want to make sure that they have that little bit of aerial advantage to try and get some tags going for them.
Peterbot and Boyo, this is, again, that explosive duo. Our most, I would say, consistent, right? Clearly a team that belongs in the grand finals, but when the condition is get a victory royale, otherwise we have to play through the stages, well, it just is what it is. I think it's inevitable that Peterbot and Boyo might pick up a win before this weekend's over. However, they still have to prove it, right? We've seen crazy things happen in the past where very deserving teams don't quite make it through the stages, right? But this is just one of those times where they're gonna have to continue to chip away at it. And same can be said here for Epic Whale and Clix, who also played very, very well yesterday, all things considering, but that elusive victory royale, right, continue to slip past them.
Yeah, because for a lot of these teams, I think consistency isn't the primary concern. We're more than fully aware of the fact that these guys definitely know how to hang, make sure that they can maintain at least that top 20 of the leaderboard. But yeah, it's really just about the victory royale, because you want that day off, that last day, day 3, that you don't have to worry about competition, just get to scope out your competitors. But it all depends on how Game Number 1 actually pans out here. Rapid, Batman Booga, again, another lower bracket team now in the upper bracket, putting some decent pressure here onto Bryson Chubbs. It does seem as though Rapid's recognizing the fact that trying to play this from inside the ditch, likely not the most advantageous position, but uses a bush close by, and I like that initial strike course attempt as well from Batman Booga and Rapid. Hard to spot players out inside of these bushes, so it can definitely make for some good ambush material.
Yeah, look at this. They definitely have Bryson Chubbs lined up right now, so continue to find tags. They're spotted out. There it is. Chubbs puts some counter fire back onto them, and things should start to simmer down for a second. On the other side here, we have G-Money and Diego trying to situate up, and it seems like they're also surrounded by a couple of teams here. But you can see the markers already out. After they pick up this cache, it's about getting to the next position to play for the surge tags.
Definitely a massive cache for them to find, though, because it certainly seems like they need a little bit more hard materials, and that cache hopefully to be able to provide what they're looking for. Agers, Kanata find themselves in a little bit of a box fight position here up against the likes of Shadow and Walkers. A good overview here for Majors, like this split off that he's done from Kanata to try and attack Shadow and Walkers from just one layer above, just making sure to put continuous pressure onto this duo. Meanwhile, Kanata just continues trying to strike from their low ground layer, and Kanata again just seemingly looking for a flank of some sort, while Agers is just here to play distraction from above.
And this is one of those things where we've seen this fight happen yesterday. We know that both sides have essentially bested one another in a different scenario or another. So for Agers and Kanata, it's either this game 1, they want to earn their respect all the way through and finish these fights because they're feeling very much confident, or they're going to take a tough lesson and ultimately end up earning the respect, or getting the respect taken from them, right? From Walkers and company. But hold up, Clix and Epic Whale are in a fight here.
Doesn't seem, though, that Clix was able to get the finish there for the knock onto Day. Day will get a nice opportunity to practically refill his shields to full. And now Clix, Epic, they got some damage already online there up against the likes of Day and Redux. They don't want to keep testing their luck. Clix gonna take the pass off of that medallion from Epic. Always love the freebie shield regen up to 50, and now Clix Epic also monitoring another team that's just slightly east of them from their current position. And once you start to approach that bridge. I think Clix and Epic, they really just want to control how the teams behind them are going to be rotating.
No Boyo here. It did look like Snacky ended up getting the best of Boyo. Peterbot has to play this one out solo at the moment. That Blade's gonna go allow him to bounce all the way back, likely play for, I was just gonna say, better positioning here. Make sure you can gather as much information as possible. As long as he knows the opponent isn't watching, standing around, right? Likely gatekeeping the card, that's what he's trying to figure out. There is still that one lurking teammate, so there it is. Not exactly on top of the card, so Peterbot catches the opportunity here to back off. The marker comes out, they know exactly where the reboot vans are gonna be.
And this with 2 medkits in tow, Peterbot realistically should be able to get this reboot off for Poyo. And it's definitely still early enough that they can look to try and refarm out some materials, some better loot as well for Poyo. But what's really going to make things rough, Monster, is just that rotation up north. With the way that the zone is looking to pull towards that northern side of the map, coming all the way from Ruined Reels, it can definitely be pretty easy. You're looking a lot more susceptible if you're Peterbot and Poyo at getting held up on the edge of zone on that long rotation.
Yeah, I definitely agree. All the teams going to be looking to hold teams out, of course, as their first priority to the edges. Lavish Lair continuing to be a place of gathering. Every single time we've tuned into the Lavish Lair, I mean, it is just a hot spot for teams to not only situate up at the top of the castle, but just all within, inside, outside, around it. Oh, back to Peterbot, the safe pickup here for Boyo. He's trying to hit the vending machine, make sure he's got enough heals to weather the rotate here. And just think about the setback, the time setback here. That's what's going to be holding Peterbot back the most now for the remainder of this game. Here's the surge, the damage that he's going to have to make up for. I mean, it's just surely going to force them to take a battle.
But it's definitely still an effort from Peterbot. Curious to see how things pan out for him and Poyo as this match continues to progress. And it's for Duke in threats, though. Overlooking Rift Island for the time being. Duke's Reaper Sniper in tow. Heads, got to be careful when you're looking for those peaks outside of your boxes. Especially when you consider the fact that Duke threats. We've already got 2 elims. Looking for this next immediate fight. Threats trying to jump in, just go straight for the box. Tired of waiting around. Duke, much of the same mental here. Just gonna challenge on the backside there. Havoc trying to escape. Just a really clean sweep between Duke and Threats to really secure Rift Island.
Yeah, that's how they picked up their 3rd and 4th elims. So they're definitely fired up right now. For Dan Redux, team that is, of course, entering into the set lobbies this weekend. They've already given a team their run for their money. We've seen them come across the, upper bracket team of Kanata, and now they're just, again, one of those teams that are going to continue to have their way. But the Lavish Lair, like I said, is going to continue to be a hot spot here. It's not going to be too center, so yep, it is going to be time to move. Dan Redux are going to try to play for dead middle here, and the high ground, the key positioning here not being taken this early, so it's going to be probably one of the better spots you can get this soon into the new zone reveal. And all things considering, this is a great find to get here nice and early, so this key positioning is going to work out very well. There's going to be so many teams that are going to be on the move, and the fact that they're here early, they shouldn't have any problems with Surge should they hit their tags. For Edgy and Tavern, Edgy essentially was downed very early. You saw from that Baka engagement. It's one of the first to catch a casualty, but Tavern, trusty with the quick save here, and look at this. They might just find their first elims. Edgy with a quick glance at the toes there. You know, he saw it for a second and it ends up working out as another team puts their influence into the mix as well. Shots raining into these boxes here make it even easier for Edgy and Tavern.
It just seems like Ilash had zero expectations that that's the direction the crash pad was going to take Edgy and Tavern. It's so hard to escape too when you just suddenly have a duo immediately collapsing on your backside. But Peterbot, he brought Pollo back into this game once already. Question is if he's going to opt to go for the reboot card again. I'd say it's rather unlikely, but not impossible. Right now, Peterbot a little bit more prioritized on just getting revenge for his teammate. And it starts with this elimination onto Blizzard. Now, Peterbot going to be able to work his way through some of these pre-existing builds. Pretty big fight that just took place. But Peterbot Pollo, this was the start of the end, at least for Pollo. But Peterbot was just getting things rolling. A nice knock onto Victor rather quickly as well. Just continuing to showcase what the Frenzy Auto can really do.
Yeah, you can see Victor had no idea what went wrong there. Everyone was landing, just trying to get situated inside the box for Peterbot. He found himself just a matter of moments sent back to the lobby. But Peterbot lost his teammate in the process too. It wasn't just an elimination. Of course, he picks up a casualty. Here's Reet and Ritual just continuing the pace from yesterday. This is another team that was on that, you know, Pollo train as well, just consistently finding themselves not only end game but eliminations, right? Trending towards the top as one of the better teams in the upper bracket. And now everyone's here as the chances are starting to run thin.
Reet and Ritual kind of just taking the focus of the lobby currently. All they're trying to do is just break into this edge of zone, but Snacky and Possessed, they're going to be the ones trying to prevent this rotate from Reet and Ritual happening super smoothly. Already Ritual down to 10 shield. Definitely going to cost him at least one of his shield potions. But the medallion definitely helps mitigate some of those resources that he might have had to use initially. Always love that feature of the... It's almost like a hot potato, essentially, when it comes to the medallion and some of these teams. Just making sure that the other is covered. But pretty interesting position right now for Reet and Ritual. Definitely looking to try and make more of an approach from the dead side of zone.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, they're keeping the zone right behind them, which is allowing them to save a little bit of material. I mean, every ounce counts at this point, and it does seem like the zone's going to pull their way. Back over to Baka and Pars, who are below the surge right now, having a very difficult time here maintaining. Now, they do have a lot of heals. They could spend more time here, but the sound cues are given away to Day and Redux, and you could just tell things are very chaotic right now for the professional players. As Day and Redux lose track of Baka, he does the damage, but it does seem like he's been singled out. It does seem like he's been cornered out. They know where he's at, but there's too much attention now coming from opponents here, from the rest of the lobby. And Baka is just on the move. Look at how much more metal and brick he still has left. So this is showing you he's not even building. He's just ratting his way through these existing builds, editing his way up and down, outmaneuvering Day and Redux, and the continued counter fire, right? That's very important to extending his tournament life right now.
Just can't help but wonder what things would be like if Baka still at Pars by his side. Given how much of a run for their money Baka was just giving Day and Redux, the fact that he managed to give them the slip entirely, the grapple blade is safety for the time being. If Baka can pinpoint Braids though, as a solo, will manage to grapple blade right over his head. Beautiful hammer pump for the elimination, and just gets him a little bit more materials. It's not like he was ever hurting in the first place for builds, but now he's definitely more than set. The damage threshold, though, still 32 below.
Yeah, even though he's only 32 below, that was just an exceptional read, and another exceptional read, finding players out of position. Diego Play should know better than to be sitting behind the edge of zone right here when you still have a couple of squares to move inwards, and Baka is taking full advantage of these chances here and making it look like he knows exactly what he is trying to achieve right now, and that is more bang for his buck. He knows he needs damage. He needs more and more damage. I think the eliminations are obviously a bonus here, and the fact that they're solos, even better. just don't see that very often. That's what we can definitely call a clutch play right there to keep his tournament life alive right now. And the win potentially, you know, on the line here.
Bryson Chubbs also, though, facing the end of their first lobby. If they can't find some tags soon enough, the damage just keeps pouring in. The amount of ticks they've already taken. And finally, Bryce will manage to connect just a little bit, but still short. Until it finally ticks on over. A brief pause, but so many heals having already been expended for Bryson Chubbs. They have no shields to function with. It is entirely up to them to just find the most perfect refresh and hope that the other players have resources they can utilize, but don't want to find themselves getting eliminated in the process. Clicks and Epic will, for a moment, contemplate challenging Bryson Chubbs, but it's all about positional rotations right now, and Bryce Chubbs, they're going to go for the high ground.
Yeah, this is where you got to be really on point with your teammate right here. When you don't have any shields, I was going to say you guys got to move in unison, make the commitment together, but Chubbs get left behind, unfortunately, in the box there. And now it's up to Bryce, who's on the front side to rotate here. Tough spot to be in. I mean, he might be able to find something. Maybe there's some points awaiting him, but I have to assume that this is all but over for him. Meanwhile, Clicks and Epic will get taken out by Peterbot there. Did not see any, or really any sign of a resistance there, so GG's for them. Now on over to Kanata and Aegis, who are peeking out, just gathering information here. They're at the front side of this rotate here, so obviously in a key position here to continue to conserve mass. More importantly, just keep a low profile, right? We already know that low ground is going to be one of the better places you could be here if you want to keep your win condition alive. Now, you will have to fight for it, but it's not going to be this type of scrappy fight that is going to happen on high ground when you are going head-to-head, and it seems like Kanata might be making that decision to fight for height.
You can tell that Kanata and Aegis definitely want to look for a challenge up on the high ground, but right now, Peterbot, you would think that he's a duo with the way that this man is maneuvering through all of these pre-existing builds. Finds himself a nice section of mid-ground, but that is up until the boxes up above get opened up. Peterbot now in a fight for his life here. Just build after build. Walls getting tossed up. Completely expended all of his materials, though, but just manages to escape into the safety of a building. Peterbot, though, still looking, but it does find a small opportunity to possibly look to get a couple of mats.
And, you know, what Peterbot just did there is only possible if you are an incredibly mechanical player. There are some players that can do things that are just not average, right? And that's an above average player just doing above average things. You don't jump into a two-box, you know, by yourself. For Kanata, Aegis, you can see here, they're finally starting to find themselves some elimination, getting their feet on the ground here, but it comes at the cost of Kanata now. So Aegis gonna have to play this one out by himself. They could have had the refresher that they were looking for, but unfortunately there was the team right underneath them. And things are all starting to go south here for some of our vets. Meanwhile, on high ground, big battles going out here, decisions to be made. Possess the snack, they decide they want to go up for it. They are taking no prisoners, though. Possess down to 11 HP here. And yeah, they're in control of high ground, but at what cost? It looks like everything. Rise comes flying down now too, and Iyamzo and Rise here have a chance to be the high ground owners, but I don't know how I feel about it.
Oh, Iyamzo definitely not liking eating those shots, just trying to get into the same box as his duo, but Rise gonna have to try and provide some coverage. Iyamzo, though, doesn't have an opportunity to pop the shield potion. Beautiful knock, though. Great elimination. That refresh could be the chase saver that Iyamzo needs. Aegis is also gonna be forced to drop here after eating a massive tag. High ground, just not a possibility with Aegis being a solo. It's all day and Redux now holding height.
I like this. See, so they managed to time the high ground take very, very late into the game here to try to be the last one to cause an issue, right? And force their way out of material potentially, but now no, they have plenty of resources. Meanwhile, on the low ground, this is the more, I'd say the position the veterans want to be in, right? Be the owners of the low ground, take full control of it, take care of the teams one at a time, and walk your way towards the end game. Yes, you're gonna have to be a little bit more aware. You're probably gonna have to work a little bit harder. However, if you can do it like this, and a win condition opens yourself up, I mean, you might just be the most positioned to actually win the entire game. Look at how Bugha and Aviv are dismantling everyone right now on this low ground situation. And could they have a little moment to breathe here, Taco? They could actually win this. They had the med kits. He must have dropped them. Yep, he did. He leaves it to Redux because he's actually the first one injured, and Redux jumps down too. So they're going all for it, but Bugha's already healing. This might be a huge mistake, but no. Bugha will have to come fight. It's not going to be given to him unless he finds the tag now, and he does. He actually turns things around in a 2v1.
Nah, the cool composure from Bugha to not even break for a second there. That man's focus is on another level. Sees Aviv getting pieced up by Day and Redux, and initially did look as though it was going to resort to a heal off their MDF, but Bugha truly taking matters into his own hands.
Yeah, he just knew. He knew immediately, I only have 2 med kits. If they're here, they're at the zone. There's too many seconds left. Like, I will have to fight for this if I want to win this game. He couldn't have timed it better. But Redux, too antsy, too soon, right? This is his first appearance here on the mainstay broadcast in the set lobbies in quite some time, right? And he just made the biggest mistake ever. They already dropped him the medkits, mind you. Now, granted, he may have had no material, and he probably didn't want to sit in the zone for longer, but you could see that taking the fight, clearly you start to leave it up to chance, and Bugha and Aviv take that chance, and they walk away with it. Congratulations on a huge win there. That was just incredible.
Yeah, Redux definitely probably not too happy as well with that final cone. It was just chilling there, and it got in the way as much as you could imagine, but massive congrats to Bugha and Aviv. Now, I'm more curious to hear what Zeke, Vivid, and Killy have to say about what just went down.
All I have to say is Bugha does it again, baby. What the heck? 7 HP. This is why, like, once we started Major 1, they were a duo we had to highlight, Bugha and Aviv. And throughout, like, the first few weeks, we saw a lot of, like, back and forth, right? There were some situations Bugha would clutch. There were some situations where Aviv would clutch. And when they needed it, Bugha said, listen, Aviv, you said you wanted to go to grand final. All right, bro, let me hook it up. Hold on, just let me cook. Let me cook. That was disgusting, Vivid.
Never count Bugha out. Oh my gosh, the perfection that it required for him to make it possible to win that. I mean, you know, we saw him dancing around with just some one random cone out there in the middle of the low ground, dodges some shots from Redux, places a wall to also block one of the shots. You know, has the intuition to still use his shotgun against Day, who's like 3-4 boxes away, doesn't have that. I mean, Bugha, incredible play, well deserving of a grand final spot after that.
I mean, their domination started from beginning to end. They grabbed 2 early eliminations off of drop. The absolute incredible ending that we got to see right there. But honestly, it might have even started before the game started, where Bugha and Aviv changed their drop spot from yesterday to Yacht, where Cooper and Miro landed, who grabbed the first victory royale of yesterday. And I don't know if this is 100% true, but Bugha also said that he was going to be coached by Miro today. So it looks like, you know, adjustments between days is just as important as knowing the meta as a whole, and it looks like they had some pretty big adjustments from yesterday.
That was just disgusting. Like, there's very few plays like that. Even just the crouch under the cone to make sure his left side was safe to react and come back around. The target acquisition, like, dude, Bugha is just something else. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just like, that was crazy. We know. I know. Deep breath, Zeke. We still have got 4 games to go. So with that victory out, they're going to Grands. We will not see them for the rest of the weekend. We will see them next week. Now they have time to prep and, of course, figure out where are they going. Yeah, are they going that contest? Are they going somewhere else? We'll see next week. For now, though, what do those standings look like, right? Because remember, at the end of the day, if we end in the top 20, we stay in the upper bracket. Now, tomorrow, the top 25 will also go to grand finals. So we want to stay in that upper bracket if possible. Right now, Day and Redux, after that performance, after the second place, they're in that second place spot. But look at a couple names here as well. Yamso and Rise, the dark horses themselves.
Yeah, good game out of them. But I do want to mention a little bit about Day and Redux. Listen, Everybody knows the old trio that was Day, Miro, and Reverse. And yes, that is indeed that day right there. So it is great to see him back on the main stage right there. A second place as well, putting him high up on the leaderboard. We cannot forget, yes, these victory royales throughout the day mean oh so much, Kelly. That grand final spot. But making sure that your top 20 on that leaderboard keeps you in the upper bracket going into tomorrow. So that is a good start for them and making sure that that happens.
Yeah, and then once we do get into tomorrow, the final day of the competition for semifinals, although a victory royale would be great, it's no longer just if you win a game, you automatically go to the grand finals. So again, if your favorite teams just don't seem to be grabbing a VR, there's plenty of opportunity for them tomorrow to make sure that consistency is key, of course, as we love to say here. But we kind of did see a little bit of a repeat performance of what we saw from yesterday, where these teams that finally claim height, there's so much action going on from zone 10 to zone 11. And then once Day and Redux do claim height, it unfortunately just doesn't work out for them. And they seem to be doing everything right. They knew that there was a potential heal off opportunity going down. They both dropped down and were even able to take down Aviv, but it's Bugha, man. You can't count them out.
Yeah, it seems like some of these duos really want this high ground. They are just willing to throw everything at it. Viv, I just, when are they going to learn? When are they going to say, like, because if this is normal, like this is a normal grand, this doesn't happen. You go up and they go, okay, well, we just can't fight this. Disengage. We keep everything in the ready to go and we keep moving. But it's like duos would just throw everything. All the resources, all their heals, doesn't matter. Like high ground, oh, well, we have nothing now. Even if we won and have high ground, we now have nothing.
Yeah, I mean, even that was a contributing factor right there at the end, right? Redux was not feeling comfortable in the sense that, 4 medkits for sure, but they had no builds to where he could actually go anywhere that would have been a safe place for him to actually use any of those medkits. So the fact that some of those resources got used in defending and taking high ground right there came into play at the very end. But Kelly, we also saw, Peterbot and Pollo, they were trying to put on their best Malibuka and Mustache kind of, repeat right there that we saw over on EU. Peterbot was trying so hard to clutch up as a solo because we saw Pollo go down earlier on in the game, try to get the reboot as well. He ended up getting it, but they couldn't make much out of that game.
Well, that's okay, right? They still have 4 games. They can still make it happen, right? We had 2 second places yesterday. We just need to piece some of that together and go for the VR today. But I'm excited to see kind of the adjustments they have made because I feel like this duo could absolutely pick up the victory royale. But I'm getting word it's time. We have game number 2 on deck. So of course, as we get ready to play, why don't we head on over to our casters? We got Taco, we got MDF. Friends, for you.
Appreciate it, Zeke. And well, it is about to be game number 2, MDF. But after what went down in game number 1, we'll get to see what exactly team's planning on doing, because the battle bus, it's already here a lot sooner than I thought it would be. And like I was mentioning, Monster, we saw Bugha and Aviv, Bugha specifically, with a massive solo clutch to punch his ticket to the grand finals. But for Day and Redux, it can definitely be a pretty big blow coming in second place in that first lobby, but they still have 4 more chances to do it.
Yeah, I mean, call a spade a spade. Day and Redux made a huge mistake. Redux should not have come down. He had 4 medkits. 4 medkits. Day had full HP, right? He did fine getting that first elimination, and he honestly would have likely stalled out Bugha from healing any further. Like, he did exactly what he was supposed to do. Redux just should not have been on that layer. Neither here nor there, though. We're gonna get right into the action for game 2. Revised, Ro, Kane. We didn't get to see any of them last game, so definitely one of the few teams that were taken out a little bit earlier into the running, and this time you can see they are wearing their scars. Tough spots be in Aoxy and Flow here, defending their drop valiantly. Both sides are going to back off for a second here and get situated. You find amongst the top tier players, they will not really allow a team to extend this far out. Most will go and just fully commit. Like, this fight would have ended a lot sooner. So I am curious to see how this is going to play out if both teams completely back out. And on that note, Creep and Hades continuing the pace from last game as well. Another fight here. Once again, Victor finds himself as a solo. The teammate down. And the same thing, right? This should have already ended. This should not be getting drawn out like this. Victor shouldn't be having this much time to farm up material. This is how you lose your opportunity. This is how you lose your advantage. Small advantage that you may have had, right? And look at this. That block doesn't happen if you don't give him time to actually have the mats, right, to contest you here. So you've got to be super careful here. Look at this. No shields to work with other than what's on, and very limited material here too.
If this turns against Creep and Hades,
it might.
I'm right there with you, MDF. They're giving Victor so much time to really gather his thoughts. Methodical approach as well from Victor. Only 5 builds though, but he does have a small shield advantage. That is up until Creep and Hades managed to find a little bit of relief here, but still, the hesitation behind taking this challenge against Victor, you know it's a solo. You can just full dive Creep, trying to look for a different angle to approach, but part of the problem here is that Creep and Hades, they keep attacking from the exact same position. Finally gonna be a break off here for Creep, and he will find the elimination onto Victor, but definitely a much more extensive fight than what it probably needed to be.
And look at this. This is a worst case scenario right now for Roken and Revise. They had obviously a tough time on the drop. We already talked about that, but as they rotate out, Visuals and Braids are here with so much, and I mean so much material, ammunition, and arsenal to boot here. This is a tough spot to be in for any one team, but they do a great job. Okay, they put a lot of damage here onto Braids. Gonna cause a bit of a reset, gonna slow things down. The momentum now in Rokane's favor. Rokane is someone who has long earned his stripes. You can see they're coming up off the 2 elims, so they actually ended up winning their battle, and this team moves on in onto them. So just not catching a break at all, but they do catch Braids, however, with a monstrous shot there. No grapple hook to disengage either, so they will just have to see how this plays its course.
Braids definitely not suspecting that floor was not his.
Not at all.
And now Rokane, crash pad up above with Revise. Revise though, definitely hurting a little bit here. Doesn't have any shields to replenish, but Rokane trying to even the playing field here using these shield breaker EMPs. Visuals, Braids still doing a decent job though at avoiding taking any damage from those shield breaker EMPs to their shields specifically, but Rokane seems like he wants to take a slightly more tactical approach, but Visuals, Braids, they've opted to just disengage. Will eat some damage though from teams on the other side from where they were currently situated. And now another pretty big box fight taking place here just outside of Reckless Railways. And it's Reet and Ritual trying to run down Jiven and his duo. But Piggle and Jiven, they're definitely making some good ground to get away from Reet and Ritual.
Yeah, they do enough to back off here. Clearly the more experienced team, Reet and Ritual, determining the pace of this fight. But the more that they do this, the more time that it's going to take away from them having to actually set up. However, though, Peterbot and Boyo trying to pick up the pace, making up for what all went wrong last game. This time looking a lot better for them. Already a singular elimination. Already, is this for the forecast tower here? It does seem like they're trying to take full control here, get all the benefit just outside the ruin.
I love this switch up too for Peterbot and Poyo. They completely based up around the forecast tower here next to ruined reels. They wanted to make sure those NPCs wouldn't have a chance to escape, that they could secure that forecast key card, and also did a great job at pushing off the other team that was trying to challenge them for the forecast towers. That's what a lot of these second zone fights are about, because having that forecast for the remainder of the game and just knowing where every zone is going to pool just makes life so much easier here. And life is something...
I was just gonna say, we're seeing like a glimpse of what will be the grand finals. Like, that is gonna be so significant as we start leaning up towards the grand finals. Of course, you have to make it there. As Freeze just packs this player up. Was that Ducky and his duo? But yeah, seriously, those forecast battles for Peterbot, for Poyo, I mean, I'm sure we're gonna see them at grand finals, right? And when we do, it's just a matter of time if someone's gonna give away those forecasts every single game, right?
Yeah, and again, really cannot specify enough just how important these forecast towers are. Baka, Cars, slightly different strategy to Peterbot and Pollo. Didn't have a full base around the likes of the forecast here and near their drop over by Reclaim Villa, but Baka and Pars, now that they have the forecast secured, they're also going to take this opportunity from this slight elevation they have on the hill. Baka getting some really nice surge tags online up against Haji and Flexi, and now realizes that he's applied enough pressure. He's feeling comfortable getting a little bit closer. Slowly, surely, Baka Pars moving up. Maintaining height, though, is Baka over Flexi and Haji. Just wants to make sure that he has full tabs on where this duo is trying to go. But Haji, a little bit more damage to his shields. Baka punished slightly for how long he'd extended his peak over his ramp from another team. It's closer to fencing fields.
It's just some of the little things from Haji and Flexi that were giving Baka and Pars all the, you know, confidence to really push them. Building in wood, forgetting the cone, right? Like little things like that. Sharing the one base instead of putting themselves in a position to have multiple angles on defense. That's just what's going to allow Baka to just walk right through you. Take an inch and turn it into a mile every single time when he's on offense like that. You can't allow a player that good to exploit your weaknesses that much. But either way, other teams jump in, other teams start to fire in, and stuff does start to swing out of their favor for Cold and Acorn here. The story is getting to the zone, but Eclipse is in a bush. Teams are rotating all around them, so nothing safe just yet. What do we think about Acorn and Cold? I mean, we haven't quite seen them in a position to win a game just yet.
No, I think yesterday was relatively difficult for them. They were dealing with the likes of Yasir and Dorito in the off spawn, just south of the fencing fields, and we often saw Acorn and Cold in a solo performance game mode.
Yeah.
The solo is something that Asian Jeff and Oliver OG are trying to avoid right now up against Freeze and Susscript, but does seem like Asian Jeff, Oliver OG, they have a slight advantage. A little bit of Flowberry Fizz going to come out from Oliver OG, just making sure that Jeff has enough shields to continue trying to challenge up against Sus. Decent peek. He's going to get a little bit of tag damage there onto Sus. Asian Jeff does eat some damage in return, though, towards his shields, and it's just such a direct approach, though. Asian Jeff going to try to fall back behind this cone, throws up the ramp here, and now Oliver OG looking to see if he can make a more side-end approach here.
Yeah, right as you call it, Oliver's already pretty much just ahead of you. He's like, yeah, no, I got that. I'm not feeling this direct line of sight that I'm giving up to the opponents. He already starts changing up the angles there, trying to play a little smart. Normally it is Asian Jeff, though, who's playing the clever angles. But a little bit standoffish here. Freeze already has 2 elims, too, so they're definitely screaming with confidence right now. This is not a fight they necessarily need, just one that they found themselves in, it seems, by design. Now they have another team here. It's actually Mew and X-Pawn. The tags come out. Nothing connects, though. Back on over to Acorn, who's got Snacky in his sight, Convict in his sight. Still haven't quite made it to the safe zone, and we talked about how much of a difficult time they had in day one. We'll take a look at this. Now in the lower bracket, the same issues continue to persist here. Cold is down.
It just seems like Acorn and Cold keep being plagued by this solo situation where if Acorn's up, Cold is gone. If Cold is up, Acorn's gone. It's tough because we're at a stage right now in the game where Acorn could definitely look for a possible reboot ban opportunity there for Cold, but then the time that you have to spend to look for that reboot, to get the materials, to get the resources, and we're not even factoring in the rotate, because that was something else that I noticed from game number 1, Monster. We saw a lot of teams actually doing significantly better today as far as their surge damage was concerned. Didn't see too many players falling underneath that threshold in comparison to what we saw in day 1 of uppers, and so some clear adaptations have been made, but the only adaptation for Acorn and Cold really is just trying to maintain being a team. And well, it's not easy, but they still have 3 more lobbies and possibly this one to get through.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see some major adjustments for sure. Clearly, something's not quite connecting here, especially since we're past game 1. This is game number 2. Should have seen a much sharper execution here, but back on over to Rise and Iamza right now, who are playing deep into the storm right now here at the Hazy Hillside. Too many teams around them. Them to make a decision too soon, and it's one of the more dangerous ones. Baka and Pars say, nah, let's stay in the zone. Let's go all the way around here.
I'm almost curious if Baka and Pars might have heard the reboot van going off there for Iamzo and Rise, and that might have incentivized them to look for the challenge. Remember, at the start of this game was a little bit of a doozy there for Iamzo and Rise, but Pars and Baka not going to be able to find an elimination punish for their troubles. Instead, just eat a little bit of damage from the zone, but nothing too problematic. Problems have increased, though, for Day and Redux. This Day under so much pressure, teams behind and in front of him. Vorteca trying to do his best to see if he can find the finish onto Day. The Thunderburst will eventually connect here, but it's actually going to be credit given to Ilush, who found himself also challenging Day at the exact same time. Just really nowhere left to run there. And Day and Redux case just pincered by the lobby.
Yeah, super unfortunate, especially after they're going to be still down from game number 1. So it's going to be a big setback. Kill any momentum that they might have had already built up.
Vorteca and Sigma, though, might have found themselves in a slightly problematic position. They're trying to get to the high ground now, see if they can avoid. They want to just go through dead side rotate. Vorteca with 2 med kits in tow. Also direly in need of some materials here. So it makes sense why he'd want to opt towards this dead side of zone. Don't want to have to worry about other players, but hopefully Vorteca and Sigma were able to finalize a surge tag plan initially, and that strategy has worked out so that if they do hang out in dead side long enough, they'll be able to refarm without the consequences of being underneath that damage threshold.
Yumi and Vert right now still hanging on to the Rift Island here. We'll of course have the launch pad to make the rotate. And notice they were shooting way outside the storm right there for a second. There's a team that's also utilizing the storm to their benefit. And this is one of the best things Rift Island, of course, has to offer, all that brick. So a little pit stop here to get them back in the game. Meanwhile, Cold reboots his teammate and has to fight for it in the storm. And this is likely that team that we saw them shooting at deep into the storm, out the sky. It was Acorn and Cold. Just shows you all the troubles that Cold is having to go through just to get his teammate back in the game, but more importantly, how many teams are that aware of what's happening in the storm right here.
Well, that's the thing. Acorn, all he was looking for was a reboot van opportunity. Goes for it and is immediately pressured by G-Money.
Holy
Bit of a desperation attempt. It's always more favorable, though, for Acorn and Cold now that they've eliminated that player. Have a chance to try and get a move on from Reckless Railways, but they are going to be so late with their rotation, Monster. It's good that they have at least a couple hundred damage above that damage threshold. Might be able to alleviate some of the pressure, but
look at this.
Look who it is. Pumping Sphinx, they're still hanging out.
In the zone, by the way. In the zone. Not oh, they're in the zone. No, in the zone. I'm going to emphasize that. We are so far from the safety. What are they doing?
What do you think are the odds that Pump and Sphinx, well, actually hold that thought. Sphinx in a whole world of hurt right now. Cold, accurate as ever. He's often regarded for his mechanics for a reason, and that knock onto Sphinx, definitely a massive punish here on Sphinx and Pump for sticking around as long as they did in their little sky base. But Yeah, Monster, in the zone, I was going to ask you, what are the odds? They might have just heard the reboot van, but so much action just continues to take place. We didn't even get a chance to think about it because we got to worry about Rise and Iamzo just looking to survive inside of Grand Glacier.
No, I mean, I think it all makes sense now. Now seeing like what all is happening, the surge is active, things are getting super chaotic, right? The servers all fighting one another. They're like, hey, let's just sit back for a second, right? Let things simmer down and then we'll rotate in. But mistake, Cold and Acorn just so happen to be there. So you could maybe call it unlucky for Pump, but either way, the lack of awareness to have a team fully moving in behind you like that while you're based up, I mean, what are you doing? Like, not gathering information, essentially, at that point. For Yuumi and Vert, though, they're just continuing to play defense here, and look at how much space they've managed to take control of, and the extra material just sitting inside this base, so they're very well off. Meanwhile, Aegis and Kanata have the zone already on the move here. Haji down. Flexi forced to abandon the save here. And there it is. They know Flexi is gone.
You know, Aegis and Kanata were never going to let that knock get away from them. Flexi, Haji, just seemingly no idea. Aegis just poised so quietly with Kanata immediately. These are not your builds. Haji,
we talked about it earlier. Talked about how Haji and Flexi were doing things that was putting them in positions to make it very clear that they're, you know, not quite the best duo in the lobby. And that right there, having the wall not close while you're in the box and a duo below you, that is a huge mistake and a deserving set of eliminations there for Kanata and Aegis. I mean, they only got one, so Flexi got out of there ultimately, but what a mistake.
And a very heavy punish as well, which is what you would expect from a team with as much veteranship as Aegis and Kanata. And talking about veterans inside of this lobby, Peterbot, Poyo still trying to find their victory royale in the upper bracket. And it could start here at the Grand Glacier, but with the zone having pulled towards this side of the map, the elevation could definitely be problematic once these moving zones come into play. And Peterbot content with their current damage threshold, but likely always going to look for more. Wonder if he's going to try and stick as well, more towards the left side.
I was just going to say, this is uncharacteristic for this team. They normally have a lot more, so, you know, this lobby needs to be a little careful of them. They're going to be looking for a fight. Meanwhile, Asian Jeff tried a medkit in the storm here to buy himself a little chance, and he's going to jump down and defend himself very well there. That's far north, so he was trying to wait, see if the zone ends up moving towards him. Here's a look at Clicks and Epic Whale right now. We're at this bottom right side of the storm right here. Sniper
really
in
like
hand.
this. They're not overly committed to the high ground, but they're also not so far down that they couldn't just find themselves reestablishing into the safety net of that mid-tier base that they had built up. But Clicks right now just has his priority set on getting his shield back to full. 2 limbs though onto Epic and 420 damage above. Definitely a big deal here. This team can just continue to try and focus almost entirely on positioning. And you were talking about how uncharacteristic it was for Peterbot and Poyo to not have more damage. Well, they certainly seem to make some more happen. Acorn just gonna be one of the first victims.
What are the chances? Like,
they heard you.
We talked about Acorn and Cold just, you know, pulling a little short on luck, and then you just have Peterbot and Poyo, who, again, uncharacteristically are only 100 above the surge. Normally, they're so much further ahead, and they just single you out. It's going to be a problem for any team they single out, and it just so happens to be Acorn, and they break through those metal builds as if they were wood structures. Acorn is trying right now, by the way, to fight. Meanwhile, Chubbs is trying to just defend. Very different stories. Cole ends up getting taken out either way there by Kanata, by Aegis. Chubbs successfully defends here with Bryce, buys himself a little bit more room. Grapples start to come out. rotates are good. This is going way up the mountain, and it's good that you do it here early before the extra builds come out, and this is an excellent spot for Chubbs to be in here. However, there are teams on the layer, yup. So good on him to open up, give him a little bit of room, but Bryce has got to get here. He's got to get here quick.
And that was my concern, is whether or not Bryce was able to follow Chubbs as effectively, but now that they are in the same box, it's clear. They're both able to make their way up the mountain phase for the time being, and now just applying some pressure onto the layers below. It's going to be TK, though, with the knock onto Eclipse. Bacon trying to see if he can hang tight there, but with Chubbs and Bryce just doing a great job at making sure to prevent any teams from challenging their current box while still putting so much pressure onto the low ground.
I like it. Like the angles. But look at this. All the way at the top of this mountain here, Re and Ritual, the first to claim the territory. However, it's going to be short-lived here. The zone's going right back out and over this mountain. They do have a launch pad. Oh, look at that. They're going to actually set up for the launch pad. So they want to utilize the launch pad here. As opposed to just walking down the builds, they're going to go for the scenic route, if you will, for a second there.
It's always so funny when you're just seeing every single one of these teams that were at the very tip top of that mountain steadily work their way down here. For some of these teams that were already situated on this mountain phase, you have to remember a decent amount of boxes already having been established. Peterbot and Pollo, one of them, looking to see if they can find another elimination below. A little bit of Pinter pressured for time here, 24 below that damage threshold. Super unconventional Peterbot and Pollo, but all of these builds getting chopped in front of Reek, clearing the pathway for his glider, and now immediately overtaking the high ground. And he's got Ritual right behind him.
This is very, very high up. I was going to say, this does not look right. Why is there such a huge structure here? It should not be like that. There's nothing supporting this foundationally, like it's in the middle of nowhere. And there it is. Finally, it all starts to break. I'm not sure why anyone would have thought it was a good idea to try to base up that high, even if it meant you secure high ground. It's just too tall for it to be in the middle of nowhere.
Hey, Possessed doing what he can to try and hold things down. Lost Snacky, but Possessed doing a great job of just chopping all these teams that are attempting to look for that overtake on height. Still, though, Baka, Pars, they want to be the ones that establish themselves up high. And a decent job. Looks like they're trying to find a potential section that they could look to connect to. But it does seem as though the lobby, there's just so much congestion on the mountain face.
That's a great shot to show you just how far out that tower of a structure was, by the way. Not supported by any foundation. The mountain's still quite a ways off. Meanwhile, Epic Whale just obliterates someone who's trying to stay alive there in the storm for a second. This is down to placement for Epic at this point. Meanwhile, all the way up top, Baka has to fight for it, loses Pars in the process. He had the high ground for a moment, but it was so short-lived, and now it all comes crumbling down here. Loses everything in the process. There's new controllers of the narrative up top. Rokane and Revised back at it, but so is Peterbot and Pollo.
Keep in mind, Peterbot and Pollo as well with that forecast tower this game, and look at how far it's made their run. But Revised, Rokane doing an excellent job to push back the likes of Peterbot and Pollo, although Revised incredibly low on builds. Now it's just about sabotaging these other teams underneath them to prevent them from challenging, since they don't have builds. But Peterbot absolutely tearing through Ritual here. There is no safety net inside the zone.
Peterbot and Pollo doing a great job this game, playing with one another, sticking with their teammates. They finally get a moment right here. This is a very important moment for them to analyze the situation, do the math, and they say, okay, it's a 2v2v1, but one's already down. It's a 2v1 now. We have to go for this, and Peterbot's looking for an angle, but he doesn't have the builds. He has to build all the way around, tries to break the structure. Pollo's here to back him up. This is where they do it best, and they turn this game around and finally secure a victory royale.
Yeah, if you were wondering about our forecast towers worth the engagement in that second zone, 100%. Peterbot and Pollo finally get control of the forecast tower, and now they find themselves with Victory Royale. But of course, Forecast does not control your maneuvering over that mountain face. Peterbot and Pollo just did such an excellent job at staying towards the front side of that moving zone.
In that game, like, that was just game 2, but that felt like 2 or 3 end games worth of, like, experience. You know what I mean? Like, that was a crazy end game. I don't know about you, but I felt like time just slowed down. Like, it got so difficult, so fast, so early in the transition towards the end game, that for a team to win it, you needed to have the Forecast Tower. Like, it's no surprise that Peterbot and Pollo take this one away. All that additional knowledge is the difference maker for them right here.
Slick little mantle cover there as well from Peterbot when he was looking for that final challenge. It just love the fact that Peterbot going for the direct approach. Then you've got Pollo just toggling even more pressure from underneath, not capable, or at least for the teams on top, that you can't keep track of where Peterbot and Pollo are moving when they're just so in sync like that.
Yeah, well, listen, that was a great game for Peterbot and Pollo. They finally done it after a crazy first performance of the upper bracket. So let's go get caught back up with Zeke and the crew.
They finally do it. After so many second places yesterday, this is why we had to highlight them. These guys are so insanely aggressive. And just like the casters pointed out, with the help of the Forecast Towers, they finally make it happen.
Third time's the charm. That's how that saying goes. The third opportunity that Peterbot and Pollo have to close out the game in 2v2 fashion. And this is the one where they make it happen. And Kelly, oh my gosh, just the way that they maneuver sometimes when it comes down to these 2v2s, you really see the mechanics start to shine. It's like every single angle that is possible, they find it, they deal the damage, and they win out that 2v2. So clean.
Yeah, I feel like we honestly saw a different Peterbot and Pollo here in this game, and it all started going for that Forecast Tower where they kind of bullied another team away, able to claim it for themselves. And then they were actually below Storm Surge, and I'd be interested to seeing the early and mid game there if they prioritize objectives over grabbing those eliminations, which we know they're for, and that's why they may have faced that. But we can see here, they're kind of going for height. This is something that we saw them do time and time again. But something we talked about at the start of the show is the absolute chaoticness that this high ground is. And at one point, Vivid, we saw, who was it? Rocane, Peterbot, Pars, Clicks, Snacky, Revised, and Threats all trying to take high ground at the same time. And it might even be a blessing that Peterbot and Pollo weren't able to claim it, because once again, it was the low ground team that was able to take the victory royale.
Yeah.
Just crazy. Just crazy. I just don't even know. Like, you know, it's funny that Monster D-Face says, like, man, that game felt really long. And it did, because it was so, like, terrifying. You know, we're watching this game and Vivid's just quiet. And then he just like, what if the zone goes back up the mountain? And the sure enough's like, yep, there it is. It's going back up the mountain. It's crazy. It was like a chess game, a game. And listen, I'll say it, Vivid. I'll let the audience know. I looked at the high ground. I said, Bach and Pars, there's no way they don't win this.
You did say that.
And Vivid quietly said, I don't know, man. I don't know. I said, okay, Vivid, you don't know what you're talking about. All right, Vivid. You know, you're right again. My bad, Vivid. I didn't, you know, my bad.
Now the insight there comes, you know, when we were checking out Baka and Pars, they did, of course, have the high ground, right? They looked like they were so high above the rest of the lobby. But of course, you know, when we were looking at them, I saw that they had like 15 builds each, and that just was not enough to go ahead and finish out the game, especially when it comes to defending off all of the teams that were grappling up on top of them, trying to take the high ground from them.
Yeah, I want to look at the standings real quick and kind of put this in the context. Remember, because Pollo and Peterbot got the Victory Royale, they're done, right? They're going to Grand Finals. We don't have to play anymore with them. So now suddenly, Kelly, this hyper aggression we've seen in these games is gone. What does that mean for everybody else?
It means opportunity. It means that there's probably going to be a Forecast Tower available for another duo to take. The other duo that Baka and Pars almost won in that game also had the tower. So I think a lot of teams are going to start prioritizing these objectives, like Vivid talked about at the start of the day. But we can see right here, again, everyone, it's not just the top 5 teams that we're looking for, but the top 25 teams after that stay in the upper bracket. And we obviously have some big names in here. The biggest name that I can see right now is Clicks an epic whale, but of course, Acorn and Cold right below them. Day and Redux, which had a great game one, dropping all the way down to 11th place. These duos, if they can't grab a victory royale, they want to make sure that they're in that top 25 spot.
Man, some of these rotates have been so tough throughout the day, as well as like we saw Acorn and Cold right. They got the reboot off in the storm and they were coming in. There's this team still hanging out in the storm, making their rotate that much harder. We were like, how in the world are they running into teams out here? Just the little things like that make all the difference. But hopefully 3 more games left on a day, they can clean it up.
It's interesting that games feel a lot more frantic, right? Like obviously it's not quite week 1 and 2. But how many people are just trying to throw everything and say, look, we just need the victory royale versus just saying like, what if we just coast and we try and make that top 20? And if we get a VR, sweet, right? It just feels like everyone's saying like, no, it's victory royale or that's it. I can never play Fortnite again. It's all over.
Yeah, I mean, all in is necessary, right? In this type of format, victory royale gets you into the grand finals. You got to go for it.
But can they do it? There's only 3 more games today. And then tomorrow it's even more action.
Yeah, I know. I want to talk more. There's so many things to break down, but we have to get back into the action. So MDF, Taco, back over to you.
That is the intention here, Zeke, Vivid, and Kelly. We want to see all of the action that these teams still have in store for us here today. 2 lobbies down, 3 to go, Monster. And it's feeling like it might just be anybody's game.
Yeah, definitely. Anything can happen at this point. You saw that last game that, again, the forecast towers was the difference for the team to still have it, be alive, and, position themselves to make it to the end. But when you have a zone like that, truly, truly anything is possible. Any team could have walked out of there alive because of just the nature of that zone. Going up and down the mountain is so difficult regardless of whether or not you know where the zone's going. So, who knows what's next at this point. No 2 Fortnite games are ever going to be the same. And that was one for the ages. That was one for the books.
Yeah, it's definitely not the first time we've seen a moving zone pull over the mountain face. But here in game number 3, we're going to hope for the players' sake that it's not the case again. And just like that, we are right back at technically the halfway point. I feel comfortable calling game 3 the halfway point in 5-match format. Keeping in mind, all these players are looking for here today in the upper bracket is that victory royale. 5 possible games. We've already established 2 winners on the day. Booga and Vive, game 1. Peterbot and Poyo able to claim game 2 finally. 3rd time's the charm, though. And who's gonna look to take it as Possess Snacky trying to start things off hot here at Snooty. And also keep in mind, this is a format that is definitely very punishing towards teams that aren't able to be successful in these head-to-head off-spawn battles, Monster, because if you get elimed 1 game too many early on, you don't accrue any points. Lower bracket's not where you want to be, and Victor sending his teammates' hopes a little bit further here as he gets the revive onto Blizzard. A nice double elimination in the head-to-head battle we've been seeing time and time again here taking place by the Lovely Lodge.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time. We already know that, the WCJ duo that was landing here, like, they weren't finishing the fight fast by any means. It was gonna happen eventually if Victor and Blizzard came out on top here. But look at this, Edgy and Tavern continue to do this. Baka Par's landing idea. I mean, I don't even know what to call it. Just throw Baka right off the mountain. Blaze, Pars out the sky. Done and done. Look at this. We jump on over to Tex here. Bylox. They take down TSM Snacky as well. So, again, matter of time, like we chatted about. This is where all the other teams that have been contested now seemingly have their chance to play a little bit of Fortnite here.
I think what we're also encountering, though, is teams that are already making some of those adjustments in terms of where they want to drop. Because if teams haven't been able to find success in games 1 or 2, I can't blame them for wanting to maybe take their chances elsewhere. And for Tex and Bylox, switching things up, going for the Snooty Steps maneuver. I like it because they found the plays that they needed to with the eliminations, and now Sierra's stuck, honestly, as a solo, just waiting for those two to leave first.
We have here Peaks and Threats, Encrypted sitting inside the building. Another player just seemingly waiting it out, you know, doesn't want to play his hand, can't move, make a sound. Otherwise, he'll get collapsed onto. And this is a battle I feel like we saw in the upper bracket as well. So they're taking it right on into this lower bracket conversation. So Threats knows, you know, there's no fooling Threats at this point. Encrypted, they've likely seen it all already, right? Many, many times over the course of the weekend. Likely prepared for everything. If anything, this closed door is probably the giveaway at this point.
But at the same time, Threats and Duke definitely a little bit more preoccupied with trying to deal with Grand Glacier, getting that medallion and the mythic online first, probably before looking to see where exactly Encrypted is hanging around at, because Encrypted and Ducky were challenging Duke and Threats all day yesterday. Flexi, though, by Pleasant Fiazi, eats a massive shot, and it's going to be Jezzy immediately trying to follow things up here. Just taking full advantage of that first fire shot onto Haji. And that full elimination now, it's up to Hayes to figure out if he wants to continue fighting this or if he's just going to opt to retreat. Recognizing that there's just too many teams, too many players in the area for him to handle as a solo.
This is a good disengage here. That other duo coming in, although he likely to finish the fight, did have the advantage already, turning things back around onto Flex. But he peels out of there, and it does seem like that was the fresh two duos. And another set coming in. TK and Bacon being one of the few that's quick on the move, but we jump in with Jiven here. Threats loses Duke while picking up Encrypted. Okay, so things definitely developed while we stepped away here. Eliminations were picked up and teams have moved in now. And Piggle surely got the full finish there onto Dukes.
And Jiven and Piggle, they don't drop too far away from Grand Glacier to begin with over by Dumpenhausen. So makes sense that their next method of attack would be to challenge the team that's potentially looking to establish the medallion for themselves. And we saw this strategy in the last match from Peterbot and Pollo, just full base around the entirety of the forecast tower. And Ritual now on patrol to see if he can get some tags online, just try to create the damage opportunities for himself while waiting for these NPCs to spawn to take advantage of this forecast tower. He's anxious, he wants it.
Situated here, absolutely ready. We're gonna make quick work of this here. Waste no time. And this is it, this is the key, right? And you're just seeing how this is gonna affect grand finals, right? That's what's gonna really come into play when we start gearing up for next week. Now we already know Peterbot, he's gonna be there. Polio is gonna be there, right?
For sure. But the other thing I kind of want to keep tabs on, and it can be difficult to track throughout a match, but these players that are hanging out near the forecast towers, Edgy and Tavern, looking to confirm, if they haven't already, their forecast tower. But it's teams that might be able to recognize these teams that are actually getting the forecast online for themselves and just maintaining a safe distance from behind, because if a team has forecast, they're going to know exactly where to rotate for zones. Just curious to see if anybody chooses to trail along behind them. It's Clicks and Epic. They don't want anybody following them. It's one elimination onto Sigma's duo, and now Clicks Epic just want to refarm their brick and honestly keep it moving.
Yeah, it is interesting though, in the grapple blade meta, you know, forecast tower is extremely powerful. You just have so much mobility to be able to position up perfectly.
I think it's also just the case here for Clix and Epic. They're not really in any sort of rush to depart from Lavish Lair. Just continuing to spend their time. Epic's gonna be looking to farm out his resources. After that last engagement, you can imagine some materials having been expended, but Braid's visuals in a little bit of a rough spot here at Rebels Roost. User and Havoc trying to hold their own, but it's gonna be Braid's first to back off here. Create a little bit of space from those boxes, likely just to give Visuals the opportunity to try and regen some of his shield. Nobody wants to find themselves playing out game number 3 as a solo already, if not fully elim. So Braids and Visuals just making sure to keep surveillance on the team behind them while they push forward.
Ooh, and that almost is the case here for Ritual, but he does pick up Reet. Reet falls in the exchange here against Pump. Now you have Eclipse down low and Pulp Feet. Look at that, Ritual gonna lead the push here. He's gotta be careful though. Definitely has the disadvantage here, so for him to jump in, makes sense to try to take control of things for a moment, get a more favorable angle. Still weird terrain, pretty tough to play off of. It's gotta be careful. Proceed with caution.
Looks like there might be another duo moving nearby, a little bit west of where this engagement taking place, but Kanata, Azure still hanging out by their forecast tower. Will start to make the move now, though. Close to Ritzy Riviera still, but Ritual and Reed, this engagement's not done just yet. Ritual finds his opening, puts a little bit of pressure onto Victor's backside, but again, continuing to try and wrap around. Wants to see if he can get some finalized tags with this Thunderburst onto Victor. Just getting the Surge damage alone would be nice, but a team even further west from Ritual and Reet are going to force Ritual to pay a little bit more attention their way. Reet still trying to see if he can maintain visuals of Victor, but unfortunately it does seem as though that opportunity for another elimination has just managed to escape. But Ritual and Reet bound to have gotten some decent damage still in the process.
Yeah, and such just a great position to be in on the map to recuperate all that material loss. They're right back at max stone like it never happened. Essentially all the brick in the world there. All right, Cold and Acorn. I mean, listen, you know, cameras are on you guys. We really need to see something start clicking here for this team. Again, you know, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that Peterbot in Poyo's situation where they needed Surge, you know, doesn't happen very often, right? That was a tough game too. But this game here now, game 3, fresh slate, picking back up. Can they just really dig deep and turn something at least into an end game, right? See some life out of them in the end game together is what we need to see how they play it out.
And that's the thing, right? I don't feel like we've really got an opportunity to see them as a duo much.
Not at all. In
the end game. But if they make it as a duo into the end game, they are 1000% a team that we could definitely expect to have a high possibility of getting a victory royale. Yamzo and Rise, much on the same note as Acorn and Cole, just had some difficulties. I mean, they've done consistently well at maintaining their spot in that top 25 of the leaderboard, but again, these guys, they want a victory royale. They don't want to have to play through the entirety of all 3 days of competition, especially when they see so many of their respected peers having already qualified to Grands.
Time in the game, everyone is really going to start playing for positioning here, start playing for the Surge to start turning online, giving those warning signs out. Every rotate is so critical right here. You could be moving right past a player like Siren who's just sitting in a bush. You wouldn't even realize it. So Chubbs is, I was just going to say, walking his way towards danger. Little does he know. And this is the same situation for most teams here. The Rift Island does start to come up now. Visual and Braids are going to be some of the first to jump up towards it. Whoa. Someone already positioned just nearby.
It's a lot of
Tag them
teams.
before they even get up there. I don't even think they're at the top of the Rift Island. I'm not sure what exactly happened there.
It's just all these teams boxed up on the hill surrounding Rift Island. The moment that Visuals tried to connect and went up into the Rift, it was the moment that he pulled the intention of the lobby. But he will manage to make it safely back to Braids, and once they capture Rift Island, that surplus of materials that's going to come out in their favor, Visual's probably not concerned about the couple of tags he ate. It's more so a priority focus here for Braids or Visuals. One of them just needs to be patrolling, needs to be ensuring that they get their surge tags online, and that does seem to be the prerogative right now for Braids. Got a slightly higher layer from this mini base that he's put on the top of Rift Island. Will opt to move to another rooftop here, see if he can get another angle of approach. Visual, same idea on the opposite end of the island. So these two splitting their focus to try and attack two different angles, see if they can get some search tags online. Because it is a relatively flat area where Rift Island happened to spawn, just a handful of hills, so definitely really easy for Visual and Braids to get a good idea of where exactly these teams are trying to position and rotate.
Take a look at this. Threats is holding this down by himself right now. Definitely raising the, I was going to say, the danger levels, and Dukes tries to get to Threats and gets hit with a sniper shot by Pickle. Luckily, they're not going to be overly aggressive for the opportunity right now. Jiven and Pickle are content with the damage and they back off. This could have ended really badly for Threats and Duke, who are down in this low ground area. And keep in mind, they're inside the top 10 as well. They're playing exceptionally well overall at the moment.
But for Pickle to not want to push after hearing that shield break, it is definitely some strong discipline. You've got to imagine that they're set as far as their surge tech damage is concerned. But now Rapid, Batman Booga up against the likes of Kyux and Decay. Rapid left that edit open just a little bit too long. Loses about half of his shield from the likes of Decay and Kyux, and it does seem as though the opportunity here for Rapid and Batman Booga to try and find an elimination or two won't necessarily pan out in their favor. But on another note, a player like Yamjo, yeah, he wants this up against Victor, and Victor, a very disadvantageous position. Nowhere left for him to run. Yamjo and Rise, sure, they get the elimination, but might still be looking for a little bit more Storm Surge damage, and they might have just found it up against Evigus and Ponder, but no, Yamjo, Rise, trying to make sure that they don't eat too much damage from teams that are starting to rotate from their east, while still maintaining a line of sight here on the duo directly west of them.
Look at this. They definitely don't really need it. And this is showing that right now, all they should be focused on is moving to the new zone, but wood builds, tempting, very, very tempting, and they find a player there, and this is why you go back for it. They even end up recycling the crash pad and Ponder. I'm sorry to say it. We already saw what he did to the last player. Yeah, it's about over, buddy. Sorry you missed the crash pad the first time. Yamzo and Rise make quick work of Ponder there. And now they're definitely set up. All they need to do here is make it to endgame. For Day and Redux, they're trying to find that glory that presented itself to them in game number 1. As they let that win condition just slip away, but shots come in from behind, shots come in from in front, and Redux goes down. Plur gets the last laugh here as he finishes off Day and gets to save his teammate. And this is all because there was a team shooting on the heels. And we'll see if this is going to be a short-lived celebration here. What team is that? It's Kanata, it's Agers.
And now, as far as Day and Redux are concerned, maybe kicking themselves. This engagement just outside of the zone. The cost of their third lobby performance. Definitely a steep price to pay, but for Plur, probably just happy that he was able to get that revive onto Slumshell, because those 2 eliminations now, I think, are the exact reason why they don't feel the necessity to actually take this challenge that Kanata and Angers were trying to initially present. Instead, they got to rotate sooner.
I was going to say, keep in mind, Kanata and Angers don't even get any elimination credit for that. They just get damage out of that, which is equally important. The fact that they were shooting, I was just going to say, shows us that they weren't that comfortable. They weren't happy with the last Storm Surge revealing the damage that they had done so far in the lobby, because they wouldn't have otherwise been so active in such an odd position with so many teams nearby, generating that much attention. Cold and Acorn also in a bit of a problematic situation here, but for Cold and Acorn, I mean, it's kind of like, you know, hot. I was going to say hot and cold. That's just terrible. Seriously. It's like a light switch. It's just on or off, right, when it comes down to Surge. And honestly, when it comes down to the performance overall of what we've seen so far, they have been so offline. But with this rotate here, with the duo in front of them, with the, you know, the target in sight, this is going to be everything right now. How they turn this situation around is so important here, because they need damage. They need to get active right now while they have this zone. They have so much going for them so far in this game here.
Decent investment from Cold as well for his middle materials. Gonna opt to box up for the time being, and they have plenty of options surrounding them. In fact, the opposition making themselves known here as Bacon desperately trying to dive into Cold's box. Almost makes you wonder if he might be below that surge threshold. In fact, it's going to be the immediate knockdown. Bacon breaks through the wall, but Cold more than prepared to put him right back down for it. And Cold and Acorn as well, again, just barely managing to maintain above that damage threshold. And they're not the only team feeling a little bit of pressure here right now, MDF, and definitely still need to be looking for more damage.
And you can tell Cold and Acorn are just really not trying to make any mistakes whatsoever. Cold could have easily made that edit by himself. He's like, hey, Acorn, are you ready for this edit, by the way? Like, I'm not making no mistakes here. They wait until they are both fully disciplined, fully, you know, lined up for the shot there, even though they had that player boxed up. Just, yeah, you could feel the pressure on Cold and Acorn's shoulder, how much this particular game means to them, how much this opportunity right now, because they are center zone right now. They really have a chance, but hold up, Revise and Rocane, a lot of pressure on them. 60 below. It's just teetering back and forth here, so a fight will continue to break out between them, Visuals, Braids, and the other duos nearby, but nothing seems too settled just yet.
There's a lot of congestion, though, starting to build on the left side of this zone. Revise, Rocane, not able to break away from it just yet either. Too much focus currently from Revise. He's trying to see if he can find any gaps, any window edits opening up for some of these other teams, so he can look for a moment to punish. Nearly gets punished himself in the process of looking for tags onto Epic and Clicks. But at least for right now, 7 above, it's still 7 above the damage threshold. You've got room to breathe, but for just how long? Revise and Rocane certainly not trying to find themselves smothered by the rest of the lobby. Is now Clicks, Epic, still the priority focus, it would seem, from Revised.
You say they have room to breathe, and I'm just thinking like, nah, man, he's got like a medium t-shirt on. Like, it's a little, you know, it's kind of tight. Like, we could use a little
but it still
bit of room
fits.
here.
It still fits.
It still fits. It still fits. He's doing just fine. Cold and Acorn back to 2 damage above. Very, very tumultuous rotate here. Shots coming in. Damage happening everywhere. That's not your duo. Cold realizes that for a moment there and gets the full finish, and that actually might be the perfect delivery for him. Now, Acorn is hurt here. They will have to stop. They will have to pop their shields, but they get the damage that they need. So, honestly, it probably worked out just the way it was supposed to here. But Cold really has to get a grip of this situation. He's not too sure if this is safe, if this is unsafe territory. And you can see he loses his teammate once again in the process here.
Wait.
Oh, saves him though. Oh my gosh.
Beautiful play there from Cold.
Wow.
Just breaks the box that Acorn had been stuck in a layer above. And now Cold going for the revive. I think he's going to get away with it as well. No one nearby
Man.
feeling comfortable with trying to pressure, probably because they don't know exactly which boxes Cold and Acorn are actually situated up in. But now, with Acorn back online, Monster, the dream is still going here in game number 3.
No, seriously, like, now we could really root for Cold and Acorn here. However, I'm not crazy about how they keep breaking up. These grapple hook plays just seem super all over the place, a little bit scattered. It's almost like we don't know who's leading this duo right now. If it's Cold, is it Acorn? Like, where is the plays? Where is this team trying to go right now? It's like they're trying to figure it out. Still get into the groove. Find their footing here. Clix and Epic are doing a much better job sticking with one another. They seem to be super in sync. If you jump on over to Ritual, forced to play this one out by himself, opting to go for the ultimate low ground. I like this spot. He's on the outskirts here. He's got options in front of him, but plenty of dangerous territory in front, and recognizing that danger here. Look at this, all these old builds. Likely this is Reed's old loot there.
But also, Ritual in this kind of situation, waiting for the zone to move. He's gonna probably try to hang. I was gonna say a little bit more to that backside, but no, instead tries to tackle front of this moving zone, but not going for the high ground just yet. That'll be Clix and Epic looking to take down Crisp and Noxy. Clix just so aggressive here. And alongside Epic, they do successfully push off Crisp and Noxy from the high ground, but Clix having some trouble with tarping out in front of him. And again, just not much to support these builds that Clix and Epic have going for them currently, MDF.
He doesn't care. They just finally want to see the end, the light at the end of the tunnel. Meanwhile, Cold is still up and running things right now. Meanwhile, Agers also goes for high ground. Oh my gosh. So this is just an exchange of hands here. Clix and Epic Whale had a moment, right? You know, they thought they had it, then all of a sudden Agers and Kanata are like, nope. They have continued to fight for this over and over again. It's almost like a repeat of Peterbot and Boyo just banging their head against the wall, trying to find different results. On the low ground here, Iamzo and Rise continuing to fight for their lair, but they need that refresh. They want to do it while they still have something to work with. But Rise gets caught out by himself. He does end up finding elimination. Another set of duels in front of him. A huge tag here onto Havoc. And User is extremely hurt. So there goes all that loot that they wanted. There goes a potential win condition in front of them. But no med kits. This is what they're looking for right now. Kanata does have 2.
Everybody is just looking so incredibly low, though, in that mid-ground layer. Iamzo, Rise, they could come up massive. Certainly a team that knows how to control some of these lower layers. And Iamzo, Rise doing a great job at making sure to stick next to each other. We've seen so many duos getting split up, and that second of isolation is all it takes sometimes to lead to a pickoff. But Iamzo, Rise, 7 eliminations, possibly still going, doing such a great job at continuing to tarp out this low ground, trying to see if they can find anyone else to pick off here in the process. It's gonna be Iamzo with 3 medkits in tow. The heal up has started. Sphinx and Pump will find Rise. Unfortunately, Rise unable to distribute the damage he was aiming for, while Iamzo continues to sit in the back, waiting for these medkits to go off, hoping that he's going to be able to outlast the likes of some of these other teams. Kanata very much the same intention, as well as Pump. It's really just a matter of who's got more medkits.
Yeah, and I think Kanata's got this. He definitely was the last one to pop his medkit. It seems like he's found out where Iamzo is. So long as he doesn't take damage here, he'll be just fine. And Pump swinging around the side here. So wait, pressure is on for Kanata right now. He gets shot. He gets caught out. He doesn't make mistakes like that often. And it seems like he may have just let his guard down.
Let Sphinx and Pump work. And I love that you mentioned letting the guard down, because we saw what happened to Sphinx and Pump in the last lobby. An unfortunate circumstance that led to their demise, but no mistakes were permitted in this one as Pump clutches out the victory royale here. Just couldn't think of a better way for them to grab it because Kanata really thought he was going to have the advantage there with those medkits.
Yeah, and I thought he would have had it at this situation right here when he built up. He was protected. I mean, ultimately, he still would have had to find the tags, but for him to give up the positioning right there, he literally had it. But congratulations to Sphinx and Pump. They end up pulling through at the semifinals, day 2. And that was no easy win by any means. You saw how difficult it was. It was a well-fought battle.
Yeah, and a smart heads-up play as well, though, from Pump. He probably saw the audio cues, knew that there was a little bit of movement taking place, and that might have been what gave him confidence to actually charge out from that position, try to take the matter into his own hands, found the victory royale for it. So, Monster, fantastic. Game number 3. Couldn't have asked for much more, but maybe there's something that Zeke and the analyst might have to say for the next one.
Man, oh man, comes down to that single interaction. It's crazy we don't often see this happen in this way, right? Typically, a duo go in, they'll start that heal off, and they'll be nice and protected, right? Even if they don't have builds, they're sitting there hiding deep in the storm, just healing off, saying, "Where you will never find me." But for Kanata, in the situation he was given, for Sphinx and Pump to just say, look, all right, again, we know we have to do, we want to close it out, we have to just track them down, and we can land our shots. And now they're going to grand finals.
Yeah, honestly, what it came down to right there, Pump and Kanata actually had the same amount of med kits, but Kanata just started to use his just a second earlier, and we saw the difference at the end there. Pump had 13 HP, which just those couple of seconds is exactly what mattered. You'll see Pump ride out the storm all the way until the very end and stay within the zone to make sure that he is able to pop it at the very end there. Well played by Pump, and Sphinx go ahead and claim the low ground to make sure that that was actually possible.
Yeah, and to do that against Yamzo and Rise, who were kind of on a tear on those low ground teams, but also I think Pump's positioning right here and what Taco said, being able to hear those audio cues is what was able to catch Kanata out. A lot of these duos, once they do go into this heal-off condition, they tend to try and hide themselves and not run around. Unfortunately, Kanata, I don't know if he was looking for another medkit or looking for another player, but that movement is kind of what sold him out.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at our standings. Remember, we're trying to end the day in the top 20. If your duo gets a victory royale, you're going straight to grand finals, which means at the end of the day, the top 5 will basically move up, and then everyone else shifts upward as well. Agers and now Kanata still, they're in that 5th place, right? So basically, they're kind of like 2nd, if you want to think about it that way. But also, Iamzo and Rise jumping up 8 placements after that game. Again, we're trying to still be somewhat consistent, right, Viv? Because once we go to grand finals, we're going to kind of go back into the Fortnite we're kind of used to seeing.
Yeah, still placing at the top of the leaderboard today, regardless of a victory royale, is still extremely important. You definitely want to do that so that way you are in the upper bracket tomorrow, where top 25 will actually go to grand finals. A lot easier than grabbing a victory royale in one of these games, a lot would say, but still so close for Kanata and Agents, right? 2 second places now in this upper bracket format. Oh man, they're getting so close.
It feels like it's Peter Pan Pollo all over again. But hey,
Yep.
if history repeats itself, then we're going to see them grab a victory royale tomorrow. And obviously, with consistency, they'll easily be able to make it in. And there's a lot more opportunity with new duos coming in and old duos leaving as well. So, again, your favorite duo doesn't make it today, do not worry.
Yeah, we still have 2 games, right? So we could see them maybe pull out this next game or the last game of today, right? It's just, if you get the victory royale, it's kind of like a quick pass, right? Hey, you're good. You're going to grand finals. Otherwise, tomorrow you have to end the day in the top half of the bracket. So it's very, very interesting. A lot of these duos, they just want to punch their ticket and go, right, Viv?
Yeah, I mean, punching their ticket would be very, very easy. Honestly, I'm still looking toward a lot of teams throughout this competition right now to actually get a win. And with only 2 games left, I have no idea who's going to do that, right? We have Re and Ritual. I'm surprised that game didn't end up working out with them. They got the forecast tower early on, of course. We still got Acorn and Cold, who, Cold was putting in his best effort towards the end of that game to go ahead and pick up some eliminations, some refreshes that they would have needed to carry into the later parts of the game. Just so many big name teams still left in it, Kelly.
Yeah, and once again, there is just so much chaos going on in the high ground. It's really costing a lot of these teams. I think a lot of us thought that maybe this was finally the opportunity for Clix and Epic Whale to make it to the final two, the final three, and they held high ground and they held it with quite a distance, but those grapple blades, especially with the Flowberry Fizz on top of it, just shoots you up so high. You really don't confidently have high ground, even if it's zone 11.
Yeah, normally you'd be able to defend yourself, right? But it's not just a duo that's looking to contest. It's everybody, right? But that's enough from us, at least for right now. We have 2 more games left to go. Let's get back into all the action with MDF and Taco.
Thanks so much, guys, as usual. And Monster, you heard it best from Vivid right then. So many big name teams that are still seeking out that qualification in day 2 here from the upper bracket straight to grands.
Yeah, and you know what? This is it, right? You have 2 more games to do it now. The standings are starting to shake up. It's very clear. We can start to see who are really good, really consistent teams that are gonna maybe have to play the gauntlet out, right, and go through all the stages, but they're gonna be there. They're gonna be that monumental task you have to overcome. However, to win a game is going to be very, very difficult. You can even see that Kanata with another second place is proving that mistakes can happen even amongst the best.
And Kanata and Ager is arguably one of the most cursed teams, I would say, with the fact that they haven't found their qualification just yet. Day number 1, a little bit heartbreaking. Day number 2, it's tough, but this is a team that you definitely expect that if they take a few punches, they're still going to get up and keep running.
Yeah, and they have to, right? Like at this point, it still is a confidence boost, but there it is. The battle bus is ready. Let's go into game number 4 now.
And with the start of game number 4, and another team having been taken out of the lobby, out of contention because they already found their qualification. Possibility of some drops opening up, possibility of some rotates becoming slightly easier, but one thing that's for sure is Pars and Baka, Edgy Tavern, these two have been 50-50ing their drop all day long. Baka with the Ranger pistol, gonna try and get some more pressure applied onto Tavern. Tavern still yet to find a weapon. Baka just needs to connect with one more shot. Finds a flopper, a lock-on pistol, some minis as well. Tavern just continuing to try and keep running. Pars will find the elimination though onto Edgy, which gives Baka the opening to just pick off Edgy. So a little bit tragic there for Edgy and Tavern.
I'm now so curious. Like the first 3 games, they were landing on the mountain. Sure, maybe the battle bus determined that, but then for both of them to decide this game, they're gonna go for the island and like perfectly as well. That's just crazy for them to just essentially throw the semifinals away. I don't know who's like targeting who at this point, but it's neck and neck as far as the exchanges go, and Baka and Pars continue to win more often than not, so they do seem to be the better duo on the day. Anyways, Blizzard and Victor end up winning their second game back-to-back, so now this is a 2-2 engagement as well for Hades and Creep versus Blizzard and Victor, and the tallies continue to add up here for contested drops.
Yeah, but going back to what you were mentioning with Baka, Pars, Edgy, and Tavern, it's
yeah,
almost
I just don't know.
It feels personal at this point for those two.
Somebody's coach is just ratting them out. Like, someone's giving away the juice to where this team's landing. Like, what is going on?
Certainly some pretty crazy stuff, but now you just got to hope that Pars and Baka, they're able to convert that successful off-drop fight into something like a victory royale here in game number 4. Guess it'll mostly depend upon whether or not they're able to secure a forecast tower this match or not. But just kind of keeping tabs on some of these teams. We just checked in with Duke and Threats over at Grand Glacier. Again, another team. On the north side of the map is Epic and Clix. Having all of Lavish Lair uncontested is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's a massive draw spot. I mean, I talked about in game number 2 that so many teams tend to rotate towards that area as the zone starts to close, because it's just that big, and there's usually something left over there. Take a look at this. We get to celebrate QX and Decay's first set of eliminations on broadcast here. Congrats for them actually winning the drop, taking down Moo and company.
Did cost QX his teammate though, but with it being so early on, you can hear the reboot band going off already, so Decay will be brought back into this fourth match. As far as G Money and Diego are concerned though, they're hanging out just on the outskirts of Lavish Lair. Keep in mind, Click's Epic bound to have already gotten into the vault by now at Lavish. Could just be Diego and G Money looking to try and maybe set up a little bit of height to try and get some tags into Click's and Epic. Freeze and Sus have the same idea here, challenging Asian Jeff and Oliver OG for control of the mountainside.
So far, so good for Suskip and Freeze here. Oliver OG and Asian Jeff got their work cut out for them right now, as they're getting forced lower and lower down the slope here. Not sure how I feel about them allowing Suskip and Freeze to just demand this much respect. Finally, Asian Jeff starts to shoot back. Ends up winning the better half of the exchange there.
I was just going to say, part of the problem might be the fact that Sus and Freeze could potentially just have more materials to work with than Asian Jeff and Oliver. This is such a early engagement. Can't expect Asian Jeff and Oliver OG to have had much time to farm other than those initial essentials. And now Asian Jeff, he's got that blue frenzy auto, wants to try and find some cracks through the floor there onto Sus and Freeze. Freeze eating some decent damage by Oliver OG now. And Freeze isn't careful. Asian Jeff still holding this angle from the underside. Oliver OG, Asian Jeff rejoining momentarily just to pop a couple of flow berries, get their shields up. Now the flow berry fizz comes out. Both players, max 200. It's up to Sus. Even the playing field here. Asian Jeff will lose 50 of those shields immediately. But he still continues trying to work with his downward angle, but down to his final 2 builds, MDF. Now Asian Jeff and Oliver OG, they essentially have to commit to this fight because if anything, they need the siphon materials.
Yeah, this is just all types of bad. Not only do they not have the mats here, but this has gone far too long. There's another team already moving in. And more importantly, like, why would they fight from like this such a disadvantageous position for that long, you know? Especially when they have that many heavy material. Like, they use brick and metal and work their way down and down and down this base. And it just makes you wonder why not just go like lateral? Like, you know, it puts them in probably the worst position we've seen them as far as the fighting position goes. And Asian Jeff and Oliver OG have had so many moments of greatness throughout the weekend. This is for sure one of the worst spots that they could have asked themselves to find themselves in now. And they're still there. There's nothing they can do. They can't disengage first. They just don't have the luxury to do so just yet. Meanwhile, this other team's just listening, watching, waiting for their moment. And now Asian Jeff finds himself even lower on not only material, but ammunition as well. Suskip and company might be the first to break here as they also run out of mats. So a battle over attrition essentially plays out here. And they're going to move. The other team's going to move. Luckily, they still have a little bit of activity from the Flowberry Fizz active. And good. Instinctually, they rotate out because if they sit around any longer, that other duo is going to take full advantage of them.
But the amount of time expended from both of these duos to now leave with next to nothing after that entirety of engagement, can't help but wonder just how problematic that's going to be for both of those teams as they continue trying to look for a way to refarm all those materials, all those resources they just had to use up.
I mean, Taco, like, I feel like this game just started and there's 71 players left. Like, it's like, what just happened? Like, we were watching just a standoff, and while that was going on, a quarter of the lobby just gets chopped.
And it's kind of, I'm not that surprised to see such a fast-paced match here in game number 4 because you can almost feel the antsiness, a lot of tension, I think, that's really built up here because those teams that aren't in that 6th through 25th position on the leaderboard, if you're underneath that threshold, you don't want to find yourself in the lower bracket. You want more opportunities in the upper. Reet and Ritual trying to take their fate under their own control here. Nice elimination onto Noisy. Reet, though, still trying to keep the momentum going. Wants Siren as well. Will finally manage to capitalize on these two E-limbs. But it's the fact that Reet and Ritual, they've just been the bosses of Reckless Railways, but Endgame's not so much. Forecast Tower is what it's all about here, though.
Mars and Baka back at it again. The Forecast Tower, this is what happens when they survive the drop. They go straight for it. They're willing to fight for it. Knot and Agers as well, playing this strategy right on into their, mapping their routes. Ritual and Re also have, of course, control of this Forecast Tower. So these are all your teams, of course, that are poised to have the most advantageous game so far here for game number 4. It's not every game you get the forecast either, right? Like there's a lot that goes into it, but when you do secure it, it just makes a world of difference.
Without a doubt, just that knowledge making it so much easier to understand exactly where and how some of these teams wish to rotate. Agers, Kanata, now trying to see if they can get a little bit of extra tag damage, if not an elimination entirely, onto this solo that's just continuing to run deeper and deeper into Rebel's Roost. A decent body of water here for Agers to cross if he so chooses, but he does have a grapple blade as well as the zip line if he wants to try and cut the gap here, but doesn't seem as though Agers is all that interested in splitting that far off from Kanata, just trying to secure tags where he can get that damage online. Since they know they have the forecast, they know they can focus on their positioning if they get their surge damage up and running.
Back on over to Cold and Acorn right now. A team that we've been eyeing, hoping to see them make that endgame run. Came very, very close. But it's all about this early game. It's all about this early game. They've been having a difficult time getting past this mid to early game. I like this little bait type play right here, though. Cold is trying to wait this team out. Acorn, he's got the wood builds, making the open edits. It's like, come on, shoot at it. And this is even more tempting for Tenley and Cruz up top. Cold's got all visuals here, so Acorn knows he's more than safe at the moment. The team comes flying over him. He's got to be careful. There it is. Tenley and Cyrus come on out. The Acorn defends well alongside Cold there.
Cold.
He took his base? Oh, yeah, that's a mistake.
Cold
go for it?
Looked like he wanted to just get some tags with that Thunderburst. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to connect, but like you just mentioned, I love the fact that Acorn was essentially just trying to be the bait between the two of them, and for a moment it looked like Cheers and his duo were going to take it, but Cold just narrowly missing out on a little bit of damage application there. Nothing too sore though. I think Acorn and Cold, certainly a team that can navigate the rest of this match to try and find the surge damage where they need.
Well, things are starting to settle here. Rift Island's going to begin to reveal itself. Team's already marking out the location. This one's pretty close for Revised and Rocane. If they don't move now, they'll lose the opportunity to seize the moment. Already, other teams are starting to close in on the deal. See TK and Bacon still up. Now we jump into Dukes and Threats here. Very far apart. Sniper's out though. It's Haji, it's Flexi, big 110, and this is why you don't peek for too long. You see a player like Duke in the field, it's danger all around.
Flexi peeked for like 2 seconds. It's just that edit a little bit too exposed, I think. Made it a little bit easier there for Dukes to connect with that body shot. We saw that Rift Island was relatively close to where Revive and Rocane were at, but it's going to be Visuals and Braids one more time.
Second time.
Looking to try and command the likes of Rift Island, but Visuals having ate a little bit of damage on his way up here. Now he's trying to see if he can return the favor. Fully knows that there is a player sitting inside of this bush right now, but the hardest part is just going to be for Visuals to connect. Finally, a couple of 21s breaking through here with that Ranger pistol. Visuals, all he really wants, though, is that long-range headshot, because even from a distance, getting that 2x headshot multiplier from the Ranger pistol is always nice.
Yums and Rise end up jumping their way on up to the Rift Island. Seems like they're attracting more and more players towards it now.
As far as Yamza and Rise are concerned, though, let's see how Rift Island pans out for them. Duke, though, right back at it. Reaper Sniper comes out, Chubbs immediately goes down.
It's just going.
Beautiful headshot.
From 110 to 275, just working his way on up. Stocks rising for the Duke here in game number 4. That's big.
That's a huge influx of surge damage as well.
Oh, yeah.
Between just those 2 shots alone, and that's also a big part of the reason why you'll often see these players, these teams, opting for at least one sniper to be held between the 2 of them, because just a couple of shots already, practically 400 damage dealt. Again, though, does take a decent bit of confidence, I would say, because if you do have that Reaper Sniper, it's a slot, which means you won't be able to carry crash pads or shields, depending on how you choose to split things between your duo. But the risk versus the reward situation certainly panning out there pretty heavily for Duke and Threats.
Yeah, so far so good. I mean, having that sniper, you can see that, you know, although it comes at the exchange sometimes of having an AR, it's worth it in the hands of someone like Duke. But here's Dan Redux living in the shadows still. I like where they're set up, though. This is all in all approved rotate here. Taking a low ground ravine. No one based up all around them. They have plenty of opportunity to keep a low profile here, work for a better positioning. Meanwhile, on the train right here, X-Spawn and Mew. You don't see this very often. This is Fortnite all the way. Put it in the trailer at this point.
Seems a little bit risky here for X-Spawn and Mew, but...
what could go wrong? Come on.
Other than being a little bit exposed, X-Spawn and Mew definitely going to reconsider just how long. They got the loot that they wanted from the train, so they'll opt to fall back now. Threats, Duke, though. We saw Duke. Those 3 eliminations that he secured so far, but he's got to be careful he doesn't find himself elimed in the process. Threats chose the wrong box to try and protect himself in, as now Snacky and Possessed just barreling down on top of Threats and Duke, not trying to give them an opportunity to recover here. Threats gonna actually opt to give his last flopper over to Duke, but he can't make it over the crash pad. Threats stuck now. One more crash pad, but the zone tick with that 1 HP is gonna be all it takes. Duke now trying to get back to his duo, but you can already see the materials coming out from Threats. Duke fully understanding he's just gotta leave Threats behind and play this one out as a solo.
Happened to the best of them, even though Duke is literally playing absurdly well right now. Everything just goes south for a second there. And no white heals either. Again, the downside of running that 3rd weapon here in the inventory, you obviously can't opt out of rotate, so something's got to give, and this time it's going to be the med kits. Not sure what you really do in this situation for Duke.
He can lay low. He can afford to lay low for a little bit here. Maybe just look for a 3rd-party opportunity. Duke actually gonna opt to try and just force his way into zone before the rest of the lobby takes notice of the fact that there's a solo running underneath. Hard mats are all that remains just about here for Duke. Doesn't have a whole lot of wood to work with, granted, in this kind of position. Wouldn't want to be throwing out the wood builds in the first place. That's why it's all metal and brick for the time being. But Duke knows he's still got to make it into zone, especially with no white heals. He can't really afford to take that much damage from the zone ticks.
Well, the zone does reveal itself. He goes for that quick crash pad, rotate out the side there. One should be enough. Yamzo and Rise in the same position here, but they have grapple hooks. They'll be just fine.
Ryzen and Yamza, though, certainly going to take their time with that rotate. Acorn and Cold, meanwhile, just doing what he can for Acorn. Hold on. It's Victor and Blizzard that were trying to get mega aggressive. Acorn, though, making quick work, finding that finish off Elim from Victor. Well played by Cold as well. Saw his duo getting so heavily pressured and just hung off to the side of Acorn's box and fully capitalized on Blizzard and Victor being positioned in essentially the same spot. They tried to pressure from the same direction, and Cold just full piece both of them.
Yeah, and that's what happens when the surge turns on, right? You know, teams are going to get desperate. They're going to try to make a move. And not everyone's going to wait until the zone starts to do damage. They're not going to wait until the storm closes. So Blizzard, in valiant effort, tried something risky there, but gets caught out by the stronger team this time around. Hold an Acorn on the move here. This is what we talk about, their rotates landing together. Much more of an improvement than we've seen in other games. It's about time we're starting to see them get hit to hip in another end game here, this time in a much better position than any other round we've seen them in. No pressure from the storm warning there too. Meanwhile, Reed and Ritual in the same position, just getting to their strong spot, sitting on a world of loot here, probably a fresh set of elims, and now another one there as Ducky gets brought right on down into their builds. Plenty of heavy mats too. This could be Reed and Ritual's game to determine with this amount of material that they have available to themselves.
It's always pretty crazy when you see a couple of heavily regarded powerhouse teams looking so good and set up for entering their late game. Keeping tabs on Ritual and Reet, though. Skater, Walty seem like they want to get a little bit up close and personal there with Ritual and Reet now prioritizing trying to push that duo back, but Azir's Kanata not nearly as much damage as they would like. And so with that in mind, Azir's trying to do what he can with this lock-on pistol, see if he can find some of those last little ticks of damage to give this team a little bit more confidence to know that they can focus primarily on rotate and positioning. Because right now, when you're that close to the damage threshold, you just can't afford to take it easy by any means. Baka Pars, more or less, exact same situation here. But the loadout's looking pretty nice.
This is the problem right here. A lot of teams are not going to be opening up these edits anymore. They allowed everyone to kind of settle down into the rotate. So if you didn't already find tags, it's going to become increasingly difficult now as the bases, the structures, all this metal, it's fully built out now. So box fights are going to start to ensue here shortly. There it is. We can visually see the damage, of course, happening here as the surge is active. More fights are happening here, though, while we're watching as Reed and Ritual continue to turn and burn on opponents. Look, it's not like they have to by any means, but it's because they want to. Why are you so close to us? They want more room.
You could tell from the moment that Walter and Skates made their way towards Ritual and Reet that they weren't going to let that fly. A nice elimination there to add to the tally, but again, Azir's Kanata just looking for where they want to go next. Grapple Blades will come out. They try to get this rotate online before the rest of the lobby has an opportunity to try and work down their HP. Adrian's only losing a little bit of shield for it, but it's Havoc on the other side of his wall. Gotta be careful, Havoc inside of his own build. Azir's again from the low ground. Spots out another box above him. But Ritual, Reed, we saw this team having so much success, and just like that, it's down to exclusively Ritual to try and make some magic happen here in game number 4.
And don't forget, 3 teams picked up those forecast towers. So Ritual has the information he needs. Baka and Pars surely does as well. And they're in a much better position. And Agers has not stopped picking up eliminations, which I'm sure they also have all the eyes in the sky here at this point in time. But it's Clicks. It's Epic Whale who's on high ground right now at the front side of the zone here, taking full-on advantage, building even higher than they probably need to. And this is seems to be the growing characteristic of this duo right now, taking it way back to big tower days because this grapple blade gives you so much room to do so.
I mean,
Look,
they
let it down. The team's already countering them, essentially.
Yeah, I was gonna mention, this is practically Clix and Epic's backyard here, with the way that the zone is pulled. Hanging out near the Lavish Lair, Cold Acorn, a little bit scuffy on that route there with the grab blade, but they managed to stick together, and that's the most important part. It's Aegis Kanata also trying to work their way through this mid-ground layer. Aegis still wanting to get aggressive with some of these window edits, see if he can find an opportunity to crack somebody's shields, if not look for a knockout right. This lock-on pistol, he gets the full charge, it can definitely deal some damage pretty quickly, but like you said, MD, you have so many teams having already based up, they're not really looking for aggressive peaks. Hagers, Kanata, they just gotta hope that they can find somebody, and Hagers, indeed, inside of the box that he just happens to stumble through. Ponder will find himself eliminated. Big refresh there, but
what?
Max flying through. Not the build he wanted to be inside, though.
Look at this, Cold and Acorn actually in the end game right now, finding eliminations, turning online here, rotating out on the outskirts. This is the type of Cold and Acorn form that we've been expecting to see all weekend long. However, we're finally just now getting glimpses of them, and they're under the wrath, though, of Clix and Epic Will because they are second height, so it's not going to be for free by any means. Asian Jeff is there as well. Forced to the low ground. Everyone earns the respect of Clix here as he pushes his opponents all down, and Epic reinforces the builds, and down they go as well now. And he doesn't let his guard down. It costs them everything, though. Costs them all of their material here, so huge commitment. Now they need a refresher.
Clix seemingly on refresh duty, trying to apply so much pressure to these teams that are slightly below this high ground layer, but he just can't find his immediate pickups. He's gotten some damage application, but nothing that he can convert into a knock, looking for an elimination opportunity still. Meanwhile, Cold, Acorn, Flowberry Fizz, and it's gonna be Cold and Acorn actually just
there.
dropping a little bit.
Together. Oh, and they found a player underneath the build here. But that's the problem. That's the problem being this high up on the layers. You start to waste your medkits. You start to find other teams that want to go for high ground. And all of a sudden now Acorn is by himself. But he is fighting for this tooth and nail right now. And he finds a whole duo there. Huge tag onto Revise and takes him down. But Rokane plays defensively there. Does enough. Epic Whale is now by himself. He loses Clix too. He still has 2 medkits, but remember, it was all of his material just to stay on the high ground here. And now he can't do anything about it. He gets crushed under the weight of the lobby.
And look at Rapid. Just full benefiting from Epic's refresh there. Iamzo, Rise though, trying to control the low ground. Got a decent amount of builds going up here. Trying to see if they can pick off User. A nice knock, converts to an elimination, but that's gonna be Rapid and Booga now from the high ground. Dropping first is gonna be Rapid, trying to see if he can find the last couple of hits needed. Rokane eliminated. Batman Booga, Rapid, up against the likes of Suscript and his 4 medkits.
4 medkits? Batman Booga, you have to do more. Okay, he recognizes that. Oh, he might actually have this, and he actually does. He runs up, grabs those floppers. He was willing to fight for it and put it all on the line there.
Looking like a little bit of storm sickness might have been the demise there for Suscript. Curious to see how exactly those 4 medkits just fell short, but hey, you take your chances, you take the gamble, and sometimes you just don't have the ability to sustain through it.
Well, listen, Batman Booga is definitely a favorite, as is Rapid here. Together, they do what seemed impossible for a moment there, but they end up winning the game in the end. Suscript, who, again, like you said, had the definite advantage and the win condition in his favor, have to assume, yeah, the sickness turned on. Look at the damage starts ticking like crazy. And he gets dropped there. Well, there you have it. Batman Booga, Rapid, they're going straight to grand finals now after a splendid victory royale there. And we hadn't seen much of them all day long, but all of a sudden now, when it matters, they win a game.
Yeah, and the best part about it is that they came from the lower bracket. So they're going to be our first lower bracket team come upper bracket to secure the Victory Royale and finalize their place in the grand finals. Fantastic stuff coming out of Batman Booga and Rapid, but I'm sure there's plenty more to break down in game number 4. And so, Zeke, Vivid, Kelly, what you got for us?
Batman, Book, and Rapid get themselves the Victory Royale, and like they pointed out, from the lower bracket, make it up in the upper bracket. Sigh of relief. They don't have to go back tomorrow to play in that lower bracket. They don't have to play in upper bracket. All they have to think about is grand finals. Where are we dropping?
Yeah, honestly, one of those teams that came from the lower bracket. They got 2 Victory Royales in the lower bracket matches yesterday. So I was keeping my eye on them, and I was like, okay, they've proved that they can go ahead and win games. Are they going to be able to do it in these set lobbies, though? In the upper bracket, they just went ahead and proved that they definitely can. And Kelly, it just came down to the high ground fight. Eventually, Epic Will and Clicks, they couldn't sustain up there anymore, and Batman, Booga, and Rapid took full advantage of that and rode out their Victory Royale.
I never had any doubts, never at all. I always knew that Batman, Booga, and Rapid, I mean, we saw some pretty good performances from them from the qualifier, just missing out to make it into the upper bracket. But of course, like you said, Vivid, they grabbed 2 Victory Royales. In fact, they were one of the top teams coming out of the lower bracket yesterday, and that definitely showcased their ability here today. You know, Batman Booga saw that Booga, his alter ego, already grabbed a Victory Royale earlier on. He goes, okay, well, I guess I need to do that as well. But seriously, it came down to the heel-off. It came down to the duo being prepared. And this was more of a typical heel-off that we see compared to the ones that we've been seeing throughout the day, where both teams kind of separate themselves and they just kind of hope who has the more med kits. And that happened to be Batman Booga, sort of. There was definitely some sickness going on there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially with everything happening, the chaos, it's good to get that win, right? To just say, look, Victory out, it's ours, we're good. Awesome stuff. Let's take a look at our standing. So we have 4 Victory Royales on the day, only 1 more up for grabs, and then we're looking to end the day in the top 20 to stay in the upper bracket. Revised and Rocane looking really good, but they are tied currently for that basically #1 spot with Noxie and Crisp. That's kind of insane. The points are nuts.
Yeah, honestly, these teams are playing very, very consistently. And yeah, like Zeke mentioned, only 1 game left, which means that only 1 more of our teams that are playing right now in this upper bracket can actually qualify directly through to the grand final. So, Kelly, I think we need to start turning our attention more so focused on those spots 6th through 25th. Finishing within that range today will guarantee you a spot in upper bracket tomorrow, which the opportunity there is just so much better to qualify for grand finals in the format right now.
And I mean, just some of those names there, Yalmzone Rise, Kanada, Agers, Re, and Ritual. And that was just the first page. Obviously, we have 2 more pages after that. If we're looking at the top 25, there are some huge names that are competing for that Victory Royale, because although we have confidence in these top teams to be able to make it through placements tomorrow, they don't want to compete tomorrow, or maybe they do, but I highly doubt that they would want to go through the gauntlet once again, because it's really just unpredictable when you don't know which teams you're going to be going up against tomorrow. You don't know what the drop map's going to be looking like, so you want to make sure you grab that Victory Royale. And just from the way it looks right now, stay on low ground, maybe second low ground. Make sure that you're collecting a bunch of heals. Stop fighting for high ground. I think it's worked for 1 team in the last 2 days. It just doesn't seem to be working out for these duos. And if it does work out for them, then they had some kind of pocket strat. We're going to have to see if that's going to come out in this final game.
So, Zeke and Kelly, I think it's time that we maybe we do a little bit of a prediction thing right now, right? 1 more game left to go. A lot of big name teams yet to qualify with a Victory Royale. I'm going to go ahead and put my money on Acorn and Cold. I'm liking the shots that they're hitting throughout some of these end games when they get box to box with a lot of people. Some of their rotates have been pretty tough throughout the day, but I think game 4 right there, they both made it into the end game. They were finding some refreshes throughout, just unfortunately ended up losing Cold a little bit early. Tried finding the refresh that they so desperately needed and just didn't end up working out. And Acorn and Cold, they've been together for a very long time, so the experience is there. They're so good when it comes to FNCS. Let's see them get a win.
Interesting.
That would be good, right? If we could just end the day and say, hey, these guys are going through. But, I mean, I guess for me, I'm less worried about them specifically. My mind is actually on if we end the day and someone in the top 20 gets a victory royale, how will that change the standings, right? Because then everyone once again is going to shift up again. So, I mean, if you have a prediction, you could send it, Kelly, but I'm just thinking about, like, wait a minute, what if someone in the top 20 gets another VR?
New opportunities, new chances for these lower teams. Zeke, there is just so much on the line right now. All these teams are going to be going for that victory royale. Who's it going to be? It could be Acorn Cord or it could be someone else. Well, we're going to have to wait, find out.
Nada now? Maybe. I guess it's time to find out. One last ride here on the day. Casters, on over to you.
Some really interesting predictions coming out of our analyst desk. Although, granted, we really only heard one from Vivid, but I'm going to act like they mentioned at least several different teams there because there are a lot of teams, Monster, on that leaderboard that are still looking to solidify the last win of the day.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Zeke wants to see someone inside the top 20 pull a victory. Well, we'll see what's going to happen here because Game 5 is ready.
And just like that, we are already at our ending point of the day. The final bus ride for Upper Bracket Day 2 has just finished off. And Monster, look, we all know that every single team in this lobby is hungry for it. Threats and Duke, their first priority is going to be the same as usual, just clearing out the likes of Grand Glacier. But Duke, gotta be careful here. He's already found one elimination onto the duo that likes to contest them. Ducky gonna be the first to fall. Encrypted still lurking. And Duke doesn't have full shield, doesn't have a full HP either. I was curious to see if he was gonna look to try and challenge Encrypted right away, because it seems like Threats and Duke feeling pretty comfortable now, Grand Glacier, with that one elimination confirmed. It's gonna be tough for Encrypted to look for the recovery there.
Might be Bach and Pars's lucky charm as he called out the shenanigans of Tavern and Crew for the first time. Now they actually are uncontested by Edgy. Have a little room to work with here. Might get to situate, right? Much less crazy game to start. Oliver G, Asian Jeff, I mean, pressure's on this time. They're full on keying this opponent here. And you have the advantage. You already have the single Elam, but you know, anything can happen. But yeah, I was gonna say it's likely this guy doesn't have a weapon, just a riot shield.
Oliver OG though, not gonna complain. That's just all the more surge damage to confirm for himself and Asian Jeff. Taking a peek over at Reckless Railways though. Reet and Ritual, they've still got to clear out the likes of Siren and Noisy, who've chosen to go toe-to-toe here with Ritual and Reet.
Very bad for Reet and Ritual right now to be not only in a low ground, but in a pincer. Unless they just full commit and jump into Siren. I mean, I can't see this going too well. Wow, what just happened though? Noisy let his guard down and he gave up the advantage. I was just talking about, like, it's not good that they're getting, like, basically sandwiched. He gives up the sandwich and then gets sandwiched by Reet. Well, that's what happens when you give Reet too much time to think about the situation. He's found the solution.
And Ritual wastes no time helping Reet capitalize on that second elimination. Now Reet and Ritual truly full control of Reckless Railways. Just gonna wait and see if that forecast tower is going to be their next opportunity of attack. Have to expect that there's gonna be other teams also looking to try and contest where those forecast towers choose to spawn this game. As Edgy and Tavern, you mentioned, they didn't look for the 50-50 immediately with Baka and Pars, and seemingly it's worked out significantly better for them because they've finally got a chance to truly and play out this early game. Don't want to speak too soon though because of the likes of Sigma lurking overhead here at Classic Courts. Edgy,
over there, though.
They are stuck in that engagement. Yeah, that will buy Edgy and Tavern a little bit of time to get some farm online.
Yep, they're going to be able to take all this extra loot, which normally the Classic Courts is, like you said, you win the fight, you kind of have all the time to then catch up, but before they know it, everything's going to be gone, or they're going to have Edgy and Tavern literally ambushing them and set up. take the fight, clean up the scraps.
There's probably nothing worse, though, than finishing an engagement on one side of a POI. You go to the other end, and you're like, how the heck was this already looted? But again, that's going to be entirely at Edgy and Tavern's discretion, whether or not they choose to dip their feet into that little bit of a skirmish that started to break out at Classic Courts. Continuing on, Duke threats, finally getting into the vault here now at Grand Glacier. Duke electing to swap off the medallion. As you can see, threats definitely just wanting to get that free 50 shield off the medallion regen. And what I like about this, too, for a lot of these teams towards that north side of the map, you're noticing so many of these teams having those grapple blades already online. And it can make a massive difference in terms of even just looking to challenge other teams.
This is exactly what we're watching play out right now for Baka and Pars. So Baka and Pars not being contested this game, recognize a very critical moment to take a fight here because they need the surge tags. Before they were in a back and forth, right? Like a 200 damage swing almost guaranteed to them. So Baka's gonna be pretty upset that he doesn't find any tags in those exchanges. All missed opportunities.
I like this, though, because it seems like the call from Pars was for Baka to fall back, ensure that they maintain control of this forecast tower in case the NPCs haven't had a chance to spawn in yet. And now Pars, I believe, left with the responsibility of trying to see if he could secure a couple of tags, given how long he's been split off from Baka. Reet and Ritual, same mentality here as well. Just want to take advantage of those forecast NPCs. A little bit of shield damage being applied by the NPCs as well, but Ritual, no real complaints since they are the only team currently in the area.
Ooh, Sinetto and Veer are going to be the other team that gets tower here. What's happening up top?
It is surprising, though, to see a little bit of a lack of contest even over the forecast towers. Teams like Ritual, Baka and Pars doing just an excellent job at just pressuring other teams away from those favorable positions to try and secure the forecast. Visuals and Braids, though, sneaky as ever. Epic clicks, 3, 2, 1 countdown. You can feel it building up, and Epic gonna immediately be brought down so low. Visuals instantly wanting to pressure, sees the white damage coming out, likely callouts from Braids. But Visuals, Braids, they want to be careful. They don't want to split too far from each other. They know another duo is in the area. Epic still on the retreat, trying to see if Clicks can buy him some space, but Day and Redux on the other side of Clicks and Epic. This is looking like a tough spot for Clicks and Epic to stick it out in. And in fact, Visual's gonna find the first knock onto Clicks. So much damage being applied to these builds. The Ranger pistol's just too much of a fire rate pressure for Epic to keep up.
Yeah, and Clicks did the right thing, jumping in the line of fire, essentially, for Epic Whale, his injured teammate. He had the little bit of, extra HP lead. He did everything he was supposed to do. But not much you could do there when, you have a team like this with this type of arsenal in hand, pushing through your builds, and also just the explosive damage to be able to cut him off and catch that extra kind of opener, and there it is. This is how he ends up finishing off Epic Will from the other angle. So just like that, they were in, what was that, 12th place, 13th place?
12th place. Could be cutting it a little bit tight here, MDF, in terms
can
of...
they hold top 20?
That's the thing.
Man.
You would think that 12th, relatively safe, but it's just close enough.
Very, very close. Well, we're going to be holding our breaths for Clicks and Epic Whale. Let's see if they end up having enough. Roughly 138 points is about as far as they were able to push their 5-game run. It's going to be super close.
Clips alongside Poffy. both having gravel blades in tow, so what they really need right now is to just find some shields more than anything else. They've got a decent amount of ammo to work with, but when you don't have shields, you can't really be taking up box fight engagements. You gotta more so try to work with an element of surprise or just some insane mechanics. But Kanata and Agers, a team that's looking to put that on display for us. Immediate chop onto Visual and Braids' build, although they were already repositioning. But now Kanata, Agers continuing to try and swarm around Braids and Visuals. Kanata doing what he can to forcibly split this duo even.
Yeah, you can just see the difference in Kanata's style of approach here. He's just fast, cutting them off, swarming around in circular motions here. Ager's going to be the first to take some big damage now. Kanata closing in. They don't get damaged soon, though. This might swing out of their favor right now. Take a look at the control there. Beautifully done there. 30-piece, holds him back, backs it up. It's just perfect spacing, excellent awareness, breaking the weak builds here, and finally now they get a counter shot in. Agers also gets hurt. They're gonna have to fizz up together. It's good damage for both sides, Braids and Visuals. I'm surprised they hold it down as effective as they were able to. But look, you can see that. Yeah, they're like, these guys are just different. They don't even need to know what team this is. They just know this is a top-tier duo. We need to get out of here.
Hey, but they got a solid damage exchange for their effort, so that hustle definitely doesn't go unnoticed there for Visuals and Braids. Certainly some nice tags online for that surge damage threshold. Cold and Acorn by the Reckless Railways, crash padding just a little bit forward, getting some good distance off of that crash pad. And Cold trying to farm out some brick here, immediately gets spotted out by another team hanging out on the hill, and that's the dangerous part about trying to farm when you're right next to these hills. Have to imagine teams just trying to take advantage, boxing up on the natural elevation. It's the best way to get oversight in terms of where all your opponents are at and see where you can try and get some tags online.
Cold and Acorn are going to be very careful, not only with how fast they're rotating, but how quickly they're just jumping into random bushes without checking them.
It's certainly a way to live.
A lot of trust they're putting in the environment right now.
Plenty of trees, though, for Cold and Acorn to try and refarm some builds. Definitely not as high up as they would like to be, as Convicts shields nearly full crack there on the rotate to follow up behind Vanillas. Vanillas lost their shields entirely, depending on where they had them to start, but looks like the leftovers of a cache is what Convict and Vanilla stumbled upon. Whether or not that was their original cache, they might have just regrouped back at, but either way, could be a nice play for these two to get some much needed shield regen. Good little weapon swap out as well. And now Convict Vanilla's likely going to have a substantially easier time looking for positioning and rotates later on.
Visual and Braids continuing to fight for these Rift Islands. They've definitely found a liking to claiming them. This is the third game in a row where they've successfully managed to find a position up here.
I feel like that last EMP just went completely off Rift Island.
Close though.
Braids and Visuals definitely not having the easiest time dealing with Suscript and Freeze. A slight shield and health advantage, and it's actually going to be Suscript and Freeze who are able to claim the capture point, so they'll reap the benefits of the immediate loot that Rift Island has to offer. Then again, still plenty more to be gathered here on Rift Island. It's truly up to Suscript and Freeze if they want to get more aggressive up against the likes of Visuals and Braids. Sus seemingly just wanting a couple more resource farms before taking that engagement. Switching our focus now over to Revised and Rocane. Again, another team hanging out just outside of Reckless Railways. but Revised and Rocane, seems like most of their focus right now is going to be on just getting a positional rotate in. They know that they got another duo next to them in Walkers and Shadow, but it doesn't seem like an engagement they want.
There's an Acorn now. Havoc can use her on the defense. Havoc gets big punishments. The likes of Cold's legendary shotgun here. Forced back several squares now. Oh, the cones all come out, and that's just the first step of losing the piece control battle. And now this is desperation, pouring away all the metal here. Cold's got him exactly where he wanted him. Still looking for a chance here. He doesn't really want to jump in there, though. He knows that's dangerous. That's risky.
If he's got Acorn with him, though, might be all the confidence that Cold needs to follow this one up. Instead, huge shots onto Havoc. Cold looking to finish the job here now. Havoc incapable of escaping. It's going to actually be Acorn who gets credit for the knock. Now Cold going back to the height side of his build. Acorn chasing down the likes of User. But Vorteca and Sigma looking to take full advantage. A good elimination to finish the job here for Cold onto User, and just in the nick of time as well. That's going to be the immediate retreat as well from Sigma and Vorteca, recognizing the fact that they no longer have that third-party opportunity.
I'm just thinking about like how disrespectful. Cold hits a crazy shot and looks away. Like, he was so confident. He finished that player that he shot and turned around and moved to where he thought the player was gonna go and beat him to the punch. Like, that was just, yeah, that was just dirty. He didn't even care to follow. He literally shot and looked away. Run the clip back, I'm telling you. It's just different.
There's a reason why Cold's mechs are so highly regarded. That definitely a primary example. Yamzo and Rise, though, a team that most probably would have expected to have found a Victory Royale by now, but can never really count these guys out. Yamzo might find himself in a bit of a predicament here. The likes of Chewy and Glaze, but big damage gonna be applied here from Yamzo. Completely spooking Glaze. Just trying to create a little bit of distance here. Chewy gonna be forced to try and protect his duo to the best of his ability. But Yamzo just following along the edge of zone. He's got to be careful here, though, while he's breaking through some of these pre-existing builds. Wants to make sure doesn't find himself eating too much damage.
Yeah, he's got the card. He's gonna go back now. Yep. Had to get his teammate's card. So he gets Rise's card. He's gonna go back for the pickup now. He's got a lot of time still. However, he's being a bit lost here for a second. What the play's gonna be? There it is. It's like he was trying to get to the reboot van, but it's almost like he got lost somehow when it's on the map. I don't know.
Might not be the first time that reboot van has been utilized, though, based on the builds that were already surrounding it. I don't fault Yamcha too much for that. It could be tough sometimes, annoying looking for the reboot when it's been hidden so well by a team beforehand. And Kanata and Agers, definitely a team that's more than content to sit in their current position and just farm out mats as needed. Practically capped on all builds. So Kanata, Agers, great opportunity now potentially for them to get some damage into Sigma and his duo there, but gotta be careful. Don't want to overexpose, give players like Reet and Ritual the opportunity to try and take advantage of applying some damage to those open window edits.
Still got Tavern and Edgy just next door. Reet and Ritual eyeing up all the competition. We already know that Reet and Ritual will take a fight whether they need to or not. They were just last game fully capped out on material, huge mega base and so much excess from a set of eliminations, and then still fought a duo that was next door. I'm not sure if that was just like why or what caused it, but definitely a team that is willing to get active late in the game, regardless of the scenario. Yamzo and Rise here now. Just fighting because they have to. They actually have to. This is for all the marbles here. This is for the tournament run for all sides. Duke and Threats get the better of the exchange here, though. They know it. They both tag. Rise is on the run. Just a matter of moments now before the surge concludes the fight. Things go the distance.
Yamzo and Rise just looking to see if they could squirm away from where Duke and Threats are at, and a momentary breath of relief here for Rise as he's found small section of safety for the time being. Same for Yamzo. Incredible that Yamzo and Rise were still managing to stay standing after the threat that Dukes and Threats literally just posed up against the likes of Yamzo and Rise. Team that's not as successful though with that. Sigma and Vorteca just fully at the reign of terror that Kanata and Aegis are applying into their boxes. Nowhere left for them to run. That's an easy knock into an elimination conversion there for Kanata. Definitely got to be feeling about that damage application.
There it is. Rise and Yamzo back underneath the threshold here. As things start to update. There's players all around them though. What's the big play here? Finds the open edit, tries to jump in and get the finish. Still does a lot of damage though nonetheless. Definitely a step in the right direction. Catch a glimpse of Yamzo down in the bottom right here. Downed and finished now. Right underneath him. Rise with nothing to lose jumps in. That's going to be the end of their tournament run. Back to the lobby there. Day 2 wrapped up here at the lower bracket for them. GG's.
Just have to see what happens next. Baka Pars lose the entirety of their builds. Baka eating so much damage, just trying to get that grapple blade to connect forward. And these teams are punishing him for it. Everybody in the lobby lighting up to Baka in his current position, forcing him to bring out the metal builds here, just so he can have an opportunity to get his shield back online. The cost of a medkit and 2 of his shield potions. It's a tough price to pay.
It was actually Acorn and Cold who was putting that pressure, that fire on him. Back on over to Pars. Pars, who was in a much better position. It seems like his grapple blade treated him well on the rotate. But it is time to go up and over. Asian Jeff, Oliver OG, one of the few players playing Gatekeeper right now on this little bit of a sideline there. Team tries to catch Baka and Pars there. Almost as successful. Asian Jeff and Oliver OG, the late rotate pays off. They get a great spot here on the side of this mountain.
Pretty much just overtook Bryce and Chubbs where they were posted up, and now it's going to be Asian Jeff looking back at the rest of these players that didn't have an opportunity to move to such an ideal position. But still, Asian Jeff just barely managing to stay above that damage threshold, despite the fact that between Asian Jeff and Oliver OG, they've got 3 eliminations. Just goes to show how active this lobby has truly been so far.
Yeah, look, and even though they can rotate right here, they're staying very much in position, in place. They need to find some more tags. Open wall, the edits are just hunting right now, and there they fall below. Haji's gonna be the one that gets damaged big time, and they might actually be jumping for that loot there. But no, Oliver OG content with the elimination. Now it's about positioning there. Slips on down to low ground here. Still finds a moment to breathe, finds a moment to heal. The surge back on. It's not enough just yet here. Agent Jeff caught in the rotate there too, and things are just starting to crumble right now for Oliver OG and Agent Jeff. Have they done enough to maintain a top 20 spot as the win is starting to slip away now? One just runs by Oliver, but tunnel vision on the other in front. It's Snacky who's still in this game.
Oliver OG is just jumping back and forth. He looks like an absolute madman right now, trying to figure out where he needs to actually go next. Just doesn't seem like he's ever fully comfortable with the layer that he chooses to try and box up in. Ritual, though, looking to try and dominate the low ground for the time being. Still have 2 eliminations. What's the crash pad rotate? Bound to happen soon enough here. Flowberry's gonna get where he needs to be for the time being. Ritual definitely doing what they can to hold on to those. Acorn and Cold, though, a story we're all too familiar with. Cold left as a solo. A good elimination there onto Sigma, though. Sigma punished for trying to aggress onto Cold. Even if he's low HP, doesn't ever mean you can ever count him out.
Yeah, he's trying to read the zone right now and determine if he can even make it in. It's going to be pretty close. I think he will be able to grapple his way into the outer edge. But is it going to be close or not? Kanata and Agers play for high ground. They try to take back the narrative of this lobby, and this is where teams are going to start making mistakes. Teams are going to think that they need to play for high ground right now when they have medkits to win this game, and that will be the fatal error. But we'll see how it plays out. Ritual has a chance to do so right now as well. The name of the game at this point is Coast. Keep a low profile, don't do anything reckless.
But look at how low some of these players are in the layer directly underneath. Ritual doesn't have a chance, though, to see if he can try and capitalize off of some of the players that he knows are dropping all around him. Snacky still trying to maneuver the low ground. Just caught up in so much congestion here.
Takes the med kit and finds the player.
That's just clinical there from Snacky. Well-executed play, but will it be enough? Because Duke threats. They're looking to take control currently of the low ground. Doing a great job at making sure to maintain towards this front side of the zone on low. Duke now going to tear through some of these last remaining.
Meds just dropped right there as well.
Perfect.
Only one team can win. We know Kanata is still in this. We know Agers is still in this. Duke and Threats are on the low ground. Arguably the best spot to be in right now, exactly as they start to pull teams towards them. Drop them one by one. The med kits are down as well. There's 3 of them there, and they have the entire low layer, but they are out of mats. Dukes opens up the line to exit back out into the storm. Kanata comes down. He's got no win condition. Time is ticking. It might have been too late to make a move now, but he's trying to read this perfectly. He finds Mew there. Can he get the med kit? No, he cannot. Cancel it in time, but Agers steps back. He's the last to pop the meds, and this is why he has the most amount of HP. He might just have enough, but Duke will have a grapple blade as well. He's gonna come on up, and I think both teams know where one another are. Agers jumps down. Oh, he's just trying to stay alive right now.
Agers hoping that he could find any sort of heals, but it's just not good enough. And Mew from out of nowhere is going to actually secure the victory royale. We had all eyes on the Kanata, Agers, Duke, Threats. Meanwhile, Mew chilling inside of his own builds. More than happy to just get that heal off going.
It's crazy how in the end it was Mew who was the player that got pushed by Kanata. You would have thought just by that simple exchange, Agers should have at least out-survived him, but he did not. And Duke came up so short. GG's.
I'm starting to think part of the difference might have been Mew having those fresh 3 medkits. Meanwhile, Duke, Agers having to start utilizing theirs a little bit earlier on. But Mew, Xfon, welcome to the grand finals. Congratulations to these two on making their way in the final match of the day here in our upper bracket day 2.
What an excellent game for them to do it as well. The last game, the last chance of the day to go straight to grand finals, and now we get to see Xfon for probably what will be the first FNCS appearance, and then Mew out of nowhere. Definitely something I didn't expect to see.
Hey, it's not about how you start the day, but making sure that you can finish strong, and those two certainly made sure to confirm that. But plenty of things that I'm expecting a lot of craziness to have taken place with this leaderboard NDF, and we got to get back to Zeke and the analyst to see exactly how things shaped up for the day.
Oh man, heartbreak coming down to the final moments, the heal off. Oh, but it's okay. Mew, X-Spawn, they got themselves the victory royale. They had enough in the tank. Man, coming down to those final moments, it feels like time stops. You know, you're like, who's gonna take it? Do they have enough? Dude, no. And then it goes over to Mew and X-Spawn, and either way, they're going to grand finals. They're gonna fight for their spot then, and now that's it. Tomorrow doesn't matter. This week, it's all about preparation for grands.
I could have swore this was going to be down to the wire between Agers and Duke, right? We were watching the chase go on. Agers was looking for 4 more meds. Mew ended up taking on Kanata right there. Honestly, that's the game-winning fight right there. If he takes just like one more hit and Kanata ticks off some of those white HP, then he does not win that heal off. But Mew, by the skin of his teeth, wins the heal off, wins the last game, and goes directly to the grand finals.
And I think we all knew that it was eventually going to come down to a heal off. That seems to be the trend of what we're going to be seeing, but I don't think we're going to be seeing it as much tomorrow, where we're going to be going from placements instead of grabbing that victory royale. And we know that a lot of these duos that are competing over the last 2 days have shown that they can make it to the end game time and time again, much like Agers and Kanata. So I'm excited to see the format shift a little bit in their favor and how they're going to prioritize that tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. Let's take a look at a sneak peek of tomorrow with our standings. So remember, we're trying to end the day in the top 20, the top 5. They're already through. They're going to grand finals. So we're looking at everybody else, Agers and Kanata. They end the day in essentially like what's like that #1 seed, right? They did the best performance. They did not quite get the victory royale, but they will be here for tomorrow. And then they just have to do what they did again, right? Ending the day in the top half of the leaderboard, the top 25, for a duo of this caliber, I think it's totally easily doable.
Yeah, 100%. And already kind of proven it right here in the upper bracket. Of course, anybody that is placed 6th through 25th currently on this leaderboard that we're looking at right now, we will be seeing in the upper bracket tomorrow. We'll play 3 games there. And we'll also be joined by some of the players from the lower bracket that were competing today. And the cutoff looks like it was 112 points. We'll be seeing Day up there, Edgy and Tavern. And we already saw all of those other duos towards the top of the leaderboard that will be joining us as well.
Man, Bryce and Chubbs in 26th place, and they actually had a pretty good performance yesterday.
Yeah.
Obviously, today just wasn't their day to be in 26, but it doesn't mean that they're out, right? They do still have another opportunity. It just won't be through the upper bracket tomorrow.
Yeah, very tough to see, but this is a competition. That's just how things go. It was a wild one on the day, Vivid. There was highs, there was lows, there was action. There was Old Man Mountain who just made time stop. It was a good day at Fortnite.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. Honestly, some crazy zones that happened. Some crazy clutches were required to go ahead and get some of these victory royales. And honestly, listen, I'm just excited to watch more Fortnite tomorrow. I can't believe that after tomorrow, we will have our grand finals solidified.
Looking forward to it. Guess what, everybody? We have an interview lined up right now with a player who performed, got themselves that #1 spot, and of course the victory royale going into grand finals. What's up, bro? How's it going?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. What about you, man?
Dude, I'm having a great time. I just saw some amazing Fortnite. Saw y'all absolutely crush it. How's it feel knowing you guys are good to go?
Feels great. It's a lot of pressure off my shoulders, you know?
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah,
Go ahead. And listen, you know, you guys were one of the well-performing teams that we got to see in upper bracket round 1, and then of course upper bracket round 2 is where you got that victory royale. Was there sort of like a change between the 2 days that enabled you guys to actually go the distance and actually secure that win?
Yeah, I mean, right before the tournament today, me and Pump voted with our coach, Shokoladin. He kind of, you know, walked us through our gameplay, showed us some of our mistakes, helped us fix some of the issues we were making. So, you know, we locked in today and we got that win.
W.
Yeah, love to see it. And then obviously you guys are going to the grand finals next week. What does that kind of look like for you guys? Is it going to be more VOD reviewing?
Yeah, of course, more VOD reviewing, scrims. We got that Cash Cup on Thursday and Friday too. Just a lot of practice.
Okay, I like it. So what do you guys, how are you guys prepped for grand finals, right? Like for you, if you did not get that win, like, do you feel like that's bad? Or you guys feel like right now you're in this stage of growing? Because I feel like for you and Pump, you guys are still growing and you guys are kind of pushing the very limits of like what I feel like other people look at you guys. I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I feel like people don't put respect on your name and I'm feeling like that needs to change. So what are you looking to do to make sure people putting respect on your name?
I mean, there's only one answer. We got to win grands and book our ticket to next globals.
That's awesome, dude. Hey, man, thank you so much for stopping by. We appreciate it. Now, of course, for you, focus up. We go to grands. We see you. We interview after you won it all. And we're like, hey, remember last week when we talked? Now, of course, for all the fans, I need all y'all Fortnite fam to go follow Sphinx, okay? So where can they find you?
I mean, on Twitch, I'm SphinxFN_, and everything else, it's just SphinxFN.
Fantastic, brother. Thank you so much. Congratulations again, and we'll see you in grands.
Thanks for having me.
There you have it. Now, of course, as much as I want to focus on grand finals, we still have one more day of competition. Ending the day in the upper bracket means we are also going straight to grand finals. Any early thoughts as we start to wrap up the day?
Yeah, honestly, just looking forward to tomorrow, right? Gonna have a big change in the format. Consistency is going to matter a lot more tomorrow. So I'm excited to see if any of these players that are gonna be making it through, we're gonna switch up how they're playing, how the lobby in general is gonna play out. And oh my gosh, we're only gonna play 3 games in the upper bracket and then switch over to 3 games in the lower bracket. So a short set of games is gonna matter oh so much more.
Yeah, I feel like we've seen over the last 2 days a good combination of new teams and old teams kind of showcasing. And I think tomorrow is when we're going to see a lot more of the veterans kind of have an opportunity to reclaim their spot in the grand finals. I think with this format, it obviously throws a lot of people for a loop. We saw a lot of chaoticness going on the high ground, and of course, a lot of it going down to the heel off. And I think we're going to see a lot more standard Fortnite tomorrow.
I hope so, but also it's been a treat, right? The first 2 weeks, pretty chaotic. Now going back to set lobbies was still like a hint of chaos. And then tomorrow it feels like it's something new, but familiar, but different. It's going to be amazing. For you guys at home, we hope you tune in tomorrow. Thank you so much for hanging out, watching Fortnite with us. This is so much fun. Don't forget, EU will also have a show tomorrow, so make sure you tune in there as well. So much Fortnite, all the time in the world. But it all happens tomorrow. As always, guys, before we go, there's an awesome outfit trailer you need to check out. But until tomorrow, we love you. Keep yourself safe. We'll see you on that battle bus.
Beep, beep.
Beep, beep.
That's my show. Run up and see the goal. I'm gonna make it known.